Chapter 38-35. But it was Nian's birthday, so she agreed in the end. Although it was October, the weather in the snow country didn't change at all. She often went out and was used to this kind of weather, but Nian wasn't used to it. When he walked in the snow, his nose turned red from the cold. "Mother, this child wants to go to the theater where Mother often goes out. Is that all right?" Nian softly shook her arm with a look of desire in his eyes. It was probably because every time she left the palace, Nian would always ask the palace maids where she had gone. The maid would always say that the empress went to the theater, so Nian had always wanted to go to the theater since he was young. He always felt that it was the place he wanted to go the most in his life. He could only leave the palace for his birthday today, so he really wanted to go take a look. Du Jiusheng saw the anticipation in Nian's eyes and patted his head, "Then go take a look." "No, that's not good." Although she and Du Jiusheng were already respectful to each other, if they met Mu Qing in the theater, it wouldn't be good. Her life was complicated enough. She didn't want to make things more complicated in front of her child. "It's fine," Du Jiusheng softly replied, as his eyes didn't sparkle at all. Properly speaking, even if Du Jiusheng didn't care about her, he should know that she often went to the theater and knew who Mu Qing was. Now that Nian was here, could it be that he wasn't afraid that something would happen if they met? Before Luo Qingshun could reject him, he had already taken Nian's hand and walked towards the theater. The theater was the same as usual. There were many people listening to the play. Luo Qingshun habitually looked at the second floor, but Mu Qing wasn't there. He actually wasn't here? This made her a bit confused. After all, he was a youth who loved to listen to plays. How could he not be here? But properly speaking, she should be happy that Mu Qing wasn't here, so it wouldn't be awkward if they met. But there was an inexplicable sense of loss in her heart. She didn't know if Du Jiusheng would feel like the person in his heart had been stolen when he saw Mu Qing. But now that she thought about it carefully, perhaps she was no longer the person in his heart. "Miss Luo, you've come to watch the opera again." The servant was very good at greeting her when he saw her. She was a big regular. "Okay." Luo Qingshun nodded. She took Nian's other hand and walked up to the second floor. There were still some empty seats on the second floor. Luo Qingshun met an acquaintance as she walked. She stopped and said a few words to her. She didn't know that Du Jiusheng would walk forward and sit down where she usually sat. Luo Qingshun was startled. He had never been here before. How did he know where she was sitting? Did he secretly come here? Or did he send Yang Yu here? Once he had doubts in his heart, he would want to find out the truth. Although so many years had passed, she seemed to have long forgotten the truth. She sat down in front of Du Jiusheng, and when she wanted to say something, he placed a cup of tea in front of her out of habit. "How did you know where the cups are?" Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes as a bit of doubt appeared in them. Du Jiusheng's slender fingers trembled, and he said after a while, "I guessed it." "How did you guess it?" She kept asking, but he changed the topic. "You often come to the theater. What is the performance today?" Luo Qingshun looked at the center of the stage and gave a cold laugh. It's the story of a girl falling in love with two men at the same time. Chapter 38-36. Du Jiusheng was surprised as his expression changed a bit. Luo Qingshun saw the change on his face, and her lips couldn't help curling into a taunting smile. She never thought that there would be this kind of play today. This kind of ending, it should be a tragedy, but it's a tragedy if it's a girl. Luo Qingshun calmly took a sip of tea. If it's a man, he can take them all. After all, it's normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Du Jiusheng was a bit surprised before looking down, perhaps. When the two fell into silence, an unfamiliar waiter came over with a plate of osmanthus cake in his hand. "Young miss, young master, this is the osmanthus cake you ordered." He had his head down, and his voice was a bit deep, making it hard to see his face. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes. When she was about to keep asking, the waiter took out a dagger from under the plate of osmanthus cake and attacked Du Jiusheng. "Be careful." Luo Qingshun's first reaction was to grab the dagger, but Du Jiusheng reacted faster than her and pushed her away. The sharp dagger slit his wrist, and in the next second he snatched the dagger from his opponent's hand and killed him with a fatal blow. "Ah!" There were screams all around as 5, 6 black, clothed people fell from the sky, each holding a weapon in their hands. Luo Qingshun didn't say another word as she picked up Nian and took a step back. She had to keep reminding herself that she wasn't alone now. Even if she wanted to use her life to protect Du Jiusheng, she couldn't do it now. Nian was still by her side, and he was only a child who wasn't even 2 years old. He couldn't be hurt. Stand behind me. Du Jiusheng narrowed his cold eyes as they filled with a cold glow. Luo Qingshun obediently stood behind him. She suddenly felt that he was still the same Du Jiusheng from before. He had never changed. The blade in his hand fell, and the cold sword intent glowed. In less than a minute, all the enemies fell to the ground. Not a single one was left alive. He knelt on the ground and used his sword to support himself as he spat out a large mouthful of blood. What is it? Luo Qingshun came forward to support him. Are you hurt? No. He gave a soft cough and said, the dagger just now was poisoned. Luo Qingshun's face turned pale in fear. She suddenly felt like a storm was coming after all these years of peace. But Du Jiusheng's eyes didn't show any panic. It was so calm that it made people's heart tremble. Let's return to the palace first. After 8 hours of treatment, the poison be it Du Jiusheng's poison. This was probably Mu Wan Heir's first time coming to Du Jiusheng's palace since she came to the Endless Palace, the Supreme Harmony Palace. Du Jiu's head Sheng's is long. She looked at Luo Qingshun and didn't say anything. She knelt down in front of Du Jiusheng with tears in her eyes. Are you all right? He shook his head, and his voice was a bit cold as he waved his hand. Go back. But Mu Wan wanted to say something, but she gave a deep sigh in the end. This concubine will be leaving. This was Luo Qingshun's first time hearing this concubine. She felt something deep in her heart that was very hard to endure. After Mu Wan left, the doctor was sent away by Du Jiusheng, so there was only the two of them left in the Supreme Harmony Palace. Chapter 38-37. It had been a long time since they were alone like this, so she couldn't help feeling a bit unfamiliar with this scene. Come over, he softly called out in a weak voice. Luo Qingshun looked down and sat down beside him. Du Jiusheng closed his eyes, and after a while, he slowly opened them to look at her. He raised his right hand to pat her head and said, Have you been very unhappy in these 2 years? Yes, she replied, and a faint mist appeared in her eyes. Whether she was happy or not, he should know, but he still let everything go on like this. Then what do we do? His trembling hand came down as a dark glow flashed in his eyes. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. Luo Qingshun softly looked up and shook her head. Since you chose to protect the snow country, you don't need to regret this decision. I've never regretted it. When he was in front of her, he never used this one and always used I. Perhaps if it was before, Luo Qingshun would feel that this was a special kind of warmth, but now she only felt that it was a title. So what did it matter if it was this one or I? It's good that you don't regret it. Luo Qingshun closed her eyes and said, I hope that you won't regret it in your life. That was the conversation they had that night. When they came out of the Supreme Harmony Palace, it was already past midnight, and the sky was filled with stars, looking very beautiful. Everyone had always said that the snow country's scenery was beautiful, but Luo Qingshun didn't think so. She felt that the most beautiful thing in the snow country wasn't the scenery, but rather the starry sky. In these 2 years, the starry sky of the snow country had been very beautiful. Looking at the starry sky, it was like the haze in her heart had been swept away. After that day, Du Jiusheng's body wasn't that good. The imperial doctor said that the poison had been cleared, but they didn't know why Du Jiusheng's body was getting worse by the day. Luo Qingshun suddenly felt a bit panicked. She didn't know why she felt panicked in her heart. The past flashed in her mind one by one, and no matter how she thought about it, she couldn't find a connection. At first, Luo Qingshun thought that it was because Du Jiusheng was too busy with work and his body couldn't recover after being poisoned. But then she felt that Du Jiusheng's body was getting worse. So she personally went to the Supreme Harmony Palace to take his pulse. It was a rainy night, and the originally bright stars in the sky were covered by dark clouds. When Luo Qingshan took Du Jiusheng's pulse, her brows knit even tighter. It wasn't because of the lingering poison, nor was it because of some undetectable disease. Instead, his pulse was calm, without any fluctuations. It was as if he had a healthy body, and there was nothing wrong with him. Du Jiusheng had been staring at her the entire time. His slender fingers were only a bit away from her hand, but he never touched it. In 3 days, can Qingshan come to the Supreme Harmony Palace to live? Du Jiusheng sat up with a look of expectation in his eyes. He shouldn't have said it today. He should have said it 3 days later, but he couldn't help it. Why is it 3 days later? Luo Qingshan slightly knit her brows. There's nothing wrong with your pulse, so why is your face so ugly? It should be retribution. Du Jiusheng's lips curled into a faint smile. It's retribution for letting down Qingshan. In the end, Du Jiusheng still didn't tell her why it was 3 days later. She didn't give up. When she went the next day, Yan Yu told her that Muwan was in the Supreme Harmony Palace, and it wasn't convenient for him to see her today. Chapter 38:38. During these days, the snow kept falling in the snow country. Without knowing why, Du Jiu was sick and there were fewer stars in the sky. Towards the end, she could only see a few sparse stars. After entering the Supreme Harmony Palace, Luo Qingshan never saw Mu Wan again, and she never came. But she still took care of the harem, and the entire royal palace was in order. Although Du Jiusheng's body was getting worse, after he stopped taking care of the country's matters, his face looked better. But Luo Qingshan knew that no matter how good his face was, there was an unknown power that was eroding his body bit by bit. When he was playing chess with her, her mind was filled with him being sick, and she was in a wandering state. Qingshan's chess skills have regressed quite a bit. Du Jiusheng looked at her with a faint smile. What are you thinking about? You don't know. Luo Qingshan knit her brows and her voice was a bit anxious as she pushed the chess piece in front of her. You don't know your own body? What is going on? He was silent for a bit before a faint Li Guang appeared in his eyes. Actually, I don't like your angry appearance at all. Du Jiusheng took a sip of tea and revealed a faint smile, just like when they first met. He was careful, not daring to move forward, not even daring to take her hand. Is it important if I'm angry or not? Luo Qingshan slightly knit her brows and bit her lip. Forget it. You won't tell me anything in the end. She didn't know what kind of identity she was in. He had always treated her well. She was protected in the most comfortable environment, but when it came to good, it felt like something was missing or something was added. Qingshan. He raised his hand to pat her head. In this life, I'm very happy. She couldn't see the light in his eyes, but she could feel the dark glow that was faintly flowing. Why do you feel happy? Luo Qingshan's lips curled into a smile. Is it related to her or me? Because everything is developing in the direction I want. That's enough. She couldn't guess the meaning behind his words, but she knew that he had something on his mind. Because she was still the Jiangshan, the owner of the Weiyang Palace? She didn't know. She just knew that looking at Du Jiusheng's pale face and knitted brows while sleeping, she couldn't bear to ask. Scenes of the past flashed before her eyes. What exactly was there that she did not know? Why was it that after being ignored for 2 years, she still felt sad seeing Du Jiusheng like this? She raised her right hand and gently caressed his cheek. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. Du Jiusheng grabbed her wrist and pressed it against his chest. His chest was filled with warmth, and he could feel his heart beating with a scorching heat. Can I ask you a question? She took a deep breath, her eyebrows trembling slightly. Du Jiusheng didn't say anything, but his grip on her wrist became tighter. Have you ever liked no? His low and deep voice slowly sounded. His concise and comprehensive words shattered her dusty and lonely heart into pieces. Then why did you? Because I had to do something. Is it for snow country? Du Jiusheng closed his eyes and said in a soft voice, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Some people were lost in a fleeting time. There were some things that would be revealed in the passage of time. And her story with him seemed to have just begun. Chapter 38:39. On the 7th day after Luo Qingshan entered the Supreme Harmony Palace, she saw Mu Wan who came to deliver the pills. When she saw Mu-Wan-Er, she was surprised. A few strands of white hair could be faintly seen on her head of black hair. Her face looked a bit weary. It was as if these 7 days had been like 7 years for Mu-Wan. Luo Qingshun didn't greet Mu-Wan-Er when she saw her. Mu-Wan didn't say anything as she handed her a delicate box. Give the emperor 1 pill a day. This is a secret medicine of my western regions. It can prolong life. She gave 2 coughs, as her face didn't look good. Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows. What medicine is this? I won't harm him. Mu-Wan gave a cold laugh. I want him to live more than you. Even if... She looked at Luo Qingshun's eyes, but she didn't say anything else. She just gave a soft snort before turning to leave. Mu-Wan, what do you know? Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes. Is his illness really because he was poisoned last time? It is and it isn't. Mu-Wan turned and revealed a taunting smile. Forget it, it can't be taken back. Luo Qingshun wanted to ask, but she knew that Mu-Wan wouldn't give her an answer. For the past 2 years, they had been enemies. How could they become confidants overnight? What a joke, it really was a joke. After that day, she would only see Mu-Wan once every few days, sitting down to report in the court. Luo Qingshun felt that she was getting older and more tired. Du Jiusheng's body seemed to have reached its limit, and she knew that he couldn't hold on for much longer. Panic, fear, and uneasiness filled her heart day and night. She kept running to the hidden book pavilion, reading all kinds of books, but she suddenly found that these books had already been read by someone. Her memories were pulled back, and she suddenly remembered the medical books Mu-Wan was reading. Could it be that she already knew about Du Jiusheng's illness? Why? Her fingertips trembled slightly. She put down the medical books in the library, dismissed all the servants, and went to Weiyang Palace alone. It was snowing heavily. Standing at the entrance of Weiyang Palace, she suddenly felt afraid. In the past, he had been running away from this place, running away from the people in this place, running away from the so-called empress. But now, he was afraid. She didn't know if Mu-Wan could give her an answer, but she knew that Mu-Wan must know more than her. What was hidden in Du Jiusheng's deep eyes? Her Highness the Empress is resting. Her Highness Qing Fei, please return. That was a maidservant who came with Mu-Wan from the western regions. She knew that she did not have the word respect for Mu-Wan. It was normal for her maidservant to be disrespectful to her. All right. Luo Qingshun nodded slightly and did not make things difficult. When she was about to turn around, the door of the inner room of Weiyang Palace was opened. Come and cough, cough, cough. She coughed lightly. There was no heating in Weiyang Palace, so from the outside to the inside, one couldn't feel any warmth at all. With the flickering candlelight, Luo Qingshun was a bit surprised to see Mu-Wan like this. Her face was pale, there were more white hairs in her hair, and there were faint wrinkles on her face. Counting her age, she was just a girl in her early 20s. It was impossible for her to look this haggard. You can all leave. Mu-Wan waved her hand and said, There's no need to serve me tonight. Yes, Empress. Chapter 3840. There was only her and Mu-Wan in the Endless Palace. This was their first time facing each other. 2 years. In this large palace for 2 years, they had always been each other's enemy. Actually, I hate you very much. Mu-Wan gave a cold laugh from the couch. I don't even want to tell you anything. Just like the story he wrote, as long as you hate him, everything will be over. Hate me? Luo Qingshun replied with a cold laugh. You think I like you? She even wanted to kill her. That way she wouldn't have to share her beloved Du Jiusheng. But her values and personality didn't allow her to do this. Because Mu-Wan had never harmed her or Nian. If she did this, she would become the kind of person she hated the most. To achieve her goal, she would do anything. That's right. We don't like each other. But I was thinking, how could I let him take all this alone? Mu-Wan looked at the starless night sky outside the window. It won't change the ending. What do you want to say? Tell me a story. Mu-Wan eyes were filled with tears as her lips curled into a cold smile. A story about someone's schemes. You really know everything. Luo Qingshun closed her eyes. He can tell you everything, but he won't tell me, because Mu Wan Air slowly stood up and softly patted her shoulder when she walked past her. Loves you to death. This was a very, very long story. It started from a night 2 years ago. The sky of the snow country had always been dark, and because of the snow all year round, there were few stars. That day, Du Jiushang came to the palace to meet the emperor and report the matter of imperial tutor Luo being wronged. He also planned to propose to the imperial tutor after this matter was over. He was a very stubborn person. If he decided to love someone, he would love her for the rest of his life. A lifetime of mountains and rivers, he would give it to her. That night, he didn't go to the observatory to divine if imperial tutor Luo would be cleared, but rather to divine Luo Qingqian's fate. This world was fair. A person had to pay the price for their abilities. Luo Qingqian could know the past and divine the future. Her fate must be different from normal people. He was a bit worried that he would use 10 years of his life to see the secrets of the heavens. Her fate really was different from others. So the star chart stopped at 20 years old and didn't move forward. In other words, she would die at the age of 20. This was the result of the astrolabe. But he was Du Jiushang. She was the most powerful star master in the snow country. How could he let her die? But he didn't mean he didn't want to die. He didn't want to die Luo's fate. One was a virtual star chart, and the other was the life providence of another person on the same astrolabe. It took him 7 days to cover the original starry sky above the entire snow empire, so that everyone could live in the stars he had drawn. And the fate of the other person was no one else but Mu Wan Air, the daughter of the Western region countries, a young girl who was skilled in formations. The snow country and the Western region country had fought for an entire year, but with the snow country's army and Du Jiushang, they didn't need to fight for this long. He wanted the lives of the entire witch race to fall into his hands. Chapter 38:41. Because he needed Mu Wan Er to sincerely help him, using the lives of the entire sorcerer race as an exchange. Mu Wan Er agreed. The Western regions swapped identities with the princess and sent her to the snow country. The medium had to be by their side at all times. North Kuan was the hexagram, and Si Ming was the west. She had to enter the endless palace for the 24 stars in the sky to form a line. At that time, as long as Du Jiushang was injured on the day Luo Qingqian's original fate ended, this mortal's heaven-defying plan would be considered half successful. After that, the stars in the sky scattered bit by bit, and everything returned to its original point. Is this story moving? Mu Wan didn't know what was wrong with her. Seeing Luo Qingqian's tears, she found that her face was also covered in tears. She didn't want to cry, but she didn't know why she was crying. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Luo Qingqian took a step back as her right hand touched her heart. She desperately shook her head and said, If it really is as you say, he wouldn't need to ignore me. Because if you hate someone, you won't feel sad for them. Mu Wan raised her right hand and wiped the tears on her face. Moreover, he ignored you? Do you think it's that easy for a mortal to go against the heavens? Using a fake star chart to forcefully change a person's fate, they will suffer the wrath of the heavens. Luo Qingqian took a deep breath and leaned against the stone pillar. Her left hand dug into her skin, but she didn't feel any pain at all. He was the one who chose the Li Palace for you. Mu Wan looked into the sky and gave 2 chuckles. Exchanging fate, it's like being stabbed by thousands of needles every night. The more stars there are, the higher the chance of success and the more pain he feels. Do you think? Mu Wan Er's voice trembled, like she couldn't keep talking. She took a deep breath. Do you think he's always with me? Do you think I've seen him more than you? But he doesn't care at all. Don't say it. She closed her eyes and found that her mind was already wandering, like all the strength in her body had been sucked out. No, I want to say it. I want to say it all. Mu Wan quickly walked to her side, grabbed her sleeve, and sobbed. Do you think he only did this crazy thing? Who do you think Mu Qing is? You? How do you know Mu Qing? Luo Qingqian didn't struggle. Mu Wan Er's hands were trembling, and she couldn't hold on to her sleeves. Tears fell drop by drop. In front of the so-called supporting female lead, she had never cried before, because she knew that the moment she cried, she had lost. But at this moment, she realized that she could no longer control her emotions. She knew nothing about the past 2 years. Although her life wasn't good, at least everyone was by her side. But now, because he was made from Du Jiusheng's one-soul puppet, this is a secret technique of my western regions. Mu Wan'er weakly collapsed on the ground. She laughed and sobbed. This is a forbidden technique. I rarely use it. I accidentally used it on animals, and he found out. He would blame me in the future, but I didn't know that he wanted me to teach him. He couldn't be good to you. He was afraid that when he left you, you would be sad. So he used this terrible method to stay with you and stay by your side. Mu Wan'er suddenly nodded. She looked at her with tears in her eyes and said, "Do you know? He once asked me, if he died, how could he use Mu Qing's one soul to be with you? He wanted to be with you." Chapter 3842. Luo Qingshun didn't respond. The scenes of the past 2 years flashed in front of her eyes. It turned out that everything had already been decided when he entered the palace to meet the late emperor. This was how he knew the ending between him and her so early on. "Luo Qingshun, do you know how much I envy you?" Mu Wan'er sat on the ground crying, not having the dignity of an empress at all. She didn't respond as she said in a hoarse voice, "But you should envy me for something. I can't live that long as a medium, but I can die with him. On the road to the Yellow Springs, you can't accompany him, but I can." He. She leaned back. "How do you know I can't accompany him?" That was the last thing Luo Qingshun said to Mu Wan'er. She didn't even open her umbrella after saying this, as she flew off to the Supreme Harmony Palace. Du Jiusheng had gone to bed early tonight. Since she moved into the Supreme Harmony Palace, there was floor heating everywhere she went. She heard Yang Yu say that there wasn't any before. Luo Qingshun walked into the room and sent away the servants on duty today. She lit a lamp by herself and sat in a chair not far away as her eyes misted over. She blinked and her tears couldn't help falling down. When everything suddenly dawned on her, she suddenly felt that she was so stupid. That was Du Jiusheng. That was Du Jiusheng who had protected her for so many years. When had he ever betrayed their love? Time, perhaps it was still time. Because it had been too long, she had found excuses for him again and again, but she had been disappointed again and again. Over the years, she became more and more tired and didn't want to find excuses anymore. Du Jiusheng knew this, so he had already started his plan 2 years ago. Now, even if everything was settled, he didn't plan on telling her, because he had already decided long ago that he would let her watch him die with hatred. This really was Du Jiusheng's style. She suddenly thought of when she first met Mu Qing. That snow-white robe and that pair of clear eyes that didn't seem to be stained by the world. So he was just a puppet that he had created. No wonder there are so few people in Mu Clan. No wonder he knew where the cups were placed the first time he went to the theater. No wonder he and Mu Qing couldn't appear at the same time. So that day, he had to be injured for the final step of the Life-Providence exchange. As a result, from that day onwards, the stars in the sky were no longer as bright. She looked at Du Jiusheng. Even though he was asleep, his tightly knit brows made one's heart ache. The room was so quiet that only the sizzling sound of the candlelight could be heard. Suddenly, he exclaimed in his sleep, "Qingshun." At this moment, she could no longer control her emotions as she burst into tears. Du Jiusheng was surprised. He sat up and saw her covering her face with her hands. What happened? His long eyelashes fluttered. Even though his face was slightly pale, his peerless face was still as beautiful as ever. She felt that she couldn't even form a sentence. Under the candlelight, Du Jiusheng slightly knit his brows and said in a pained voice, "Come over." It was probably these 2 words that shattered all the walls in her heart. She didn't even think as she threw herself into his embrace. Du Jiusheng was stunned as his eyes couldn't help turning red. "Do you know, how long has it been since I hugged you?" Quick transmigration female lead. Male god, keep teasing. Chapter 3843. Why? She couldn't even form a sentence as her hands tightly grabbed his clothes, crying like her heart was being torn apart. He didn't say anything, but his heart was a bit panicked. I've been a bit tired recently, so..." Big brother Jiusheng, don't you think there's no meaning in acting like a fool? Luo Qingshan said in a hoarse voice. Muwan Air has already told you everything. Do you know that? What did you say? He trembled and pushed her away in a panic, but he was scared by his own actions. He quickly explained, Qingshan, 2 years. Big brother Jiusheng, it's been 2 years. Luo Qingshan gave a bitter laugh as a trace of endless sadness appeared in her eyes. Do you know how I've been like this? I know. I know you know. Now you can tell me, in these 2 years. After saying this, Luo Qingshan couldn't help giving a self-deprecating laugh. I really am a fool. I clearly knew. So why did I let you say again? He looked at her, and a dark glow appeared in his eyes as he said in a cold voice, Muwan Air went against our agreement. According to the agreement, the sorcerer race should be killed. You had an agreement with her. What about me? Luo Qingshan covered her eyes with her hands. You knew that she was prepared to go to hell with you. But I was like a fool. I didn't know anything. Right? You didn't know anything. Big brother Jiusheng, I feel that I really am a fool. Her crying voice was broken. Du Jiusheng raised his hand and first patted her head before taking her in his embrace. He used all his strength to tightly hug her. No, the fool is me. Du Jiusheng's gentle and pampering voice entered her ears. You thought you were infallible and let down Qingshan. What do you have to let me down? Her lips curled into a bitter smile. Your life? His body trembled as he hugged her even tighter. The entire Supreme Harmony Palace seemed to only be able to hear her hoarse sobs and his soft, doting, comforting words. Don't cry. I was wrong. Qingshan, don't cry. My heart will... I'm most afraid of you crying after an unknown amount of time. She took a deep breath. Her red and swollen eyes met his, and she said, Tell me, how much time do you have left? He was stunned for a moment, and the air fell into a deathly silence. God knows how much courage it took for Luo Qingshan to ask this question. She even felt her heart skip a beat, and her voice trembled. I'm begging you. It's already like this. Can you tell me the truth? She said to Du Jiusheng in a pleading tone, Don't leave me alone every time. Every time without saying goodbye. I am a person. I might not be able to last until the truth is revealed. She seemed to have reached a limit that she could no longer bear. Farewell, reunion. Farewell, reunion. The cycle repeated, each time more unforgettable than the last, and each time more painful than the last. She knew better than anyone how painful it was. She thought that if the person at the end of her life was her, perhaps she would only sigh that she had been with him for too short a time. But she wouldn't feel this suffocating pain. 3 days. His cold and pleasant voice slowly sounded, taking away all her thoughts and expectations. Quick transmigration female lead. Male god, keep teasing. Chapter 38:44. 3 days, 3 days, 3 days. How laughable. If it wasn't for Mu-Wonner telling her, if it wasn't for her entering the Supreme Harmony Palace. Even if he died, she wouldn't have known what had happened like a fool. She would have been filled with endless hatred, always hating him for being unfaithful to her love. She should thank Mu-Wonner because she knew that she didn't tell her this to provoke her. Rather, she was worried about Du Jiusheng. That youth, he was indifferent to everyone and was decisive to everyone. Everyone in the room seemed to include himself. His goal in doing all of this was just to let the person he loved live on peacefully. Others, whether they lived or died. Snow Country, whether they lived or died. It wasn't important to him at all. He just wanted her to live. As long as she lived, Luo Qingshan brought Nian and into the Supreme Harmony Palace. She could clearly see Du Jiusheng's love for Nian, and from beginning to end. Even in the final moments of his life, he would personally teach him how to read and write. Royal Father. Mother said that Royal Father's body isn't good. Nian can write by himself. Royal Father should rest more. His childish and calm voice made the teacup in Luo Qingshan's hand fall to the ground with a dong sound. Her eyes turned red, and there were tears in them. Du Jiusheng was stunned. He immediately came to her side and tightly held her right hand as he slightly knit his brows. Why are you so careless? She took her hand back and looked at him with tears in her eyes as she said in a choked voice. You won't be able to see in the future. Du Jiusheng was stunned before placing a kiss on her forehead. He deeply looked in her eyes and said, Then you should be more careful. That way I can be assured. I don't want it. Luo Qingshun stubbornly nodded. She looked into his deep as ink eyes and said, I just don't want it. Qingshun, I don't want it. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath and walked into the room. Du Jiusheng knit his brows as a sharp pain came from his heart. He almost fainted from the pain, but he still picked her up and walked into the room. She was startled and exclaimed, Put me down. I don't want to. He furrowed his brows tightly. Only when he reached the edge of the bed did he place her firmly on the bed. He crouched down and took the ointment from the bedside. As he applied it on her burn wounds, he said in a helpless but loving tone, Don't make me worry, okay? You're about to leave me. What will happen to me in the future? Will I be injured? How can you still worry? Big brother Jiusheng, tell me, how can you still worry? Luo Qingshun's eyes were red. As soon as he spoke, her emotions would completely collapse. Tears fell uncontrollably from his eyes. It was as if he closed his eyes and wished for the world to be destroyed as soon as possible. His hands trembled as he applied the ointment. He gently pulled her into his embrace. After a long time, he said, I will be worried. No matter where I am, I will be worried about you. You know what? How I wish that you wouldn't do this. That way, we would be able to spend our happy time together, instead of you setting traps and trapping me in them. Her voice trembled. Without you, how am I going to live? We still have Nian and Du Jiusheng. Du Jiusheng. Luo Qingshun suddenly thought of something and suddenly said, Nian's birth was calculated by you, right? Qingshun, your protection makes me feel pain. Quick transmigration female lead. Male god, keep teasing. Chapter 38:45. Sorry. He tightly hugged her and said, But if I had to choose again, I would still choose the same. He still wanted to protect her, using a terrifying and crazy method to protect a person. What did life and death matter? It was fine as long as she was safe. Luo Qingshun softly held his face and looked down to kiss his lips. Big brother Jiusheng, do you still remember what I said about past lives? Stunned by her sudden kiss, Du Jiusheng's face couldn't help blushing. A faint light could be seen flashing between his eyebrows. He replied with a nod, not forgetting to softly touch her face. We will meet again. Big brother Jiusheng definitely won't have any memories at that time. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and said, But I do have memories. I suddenly know something. He looked in her eyes and felt a bit panicked at that moment. As long as I meet big brother Jiusheng, I'll kill myself and I can protect you. No. Du Jiusheng said in a sharp voice, You can't be this willful. Could it be that the things you do aren't willful? You will never understand. You will always leave me. Luo Qingshun's lips curled into a cold smile. But I'm still not willing to leave you. I still want to spend the rest of my life with you. Tell me, what did we do wrong back then? I'll admit my wrongs. All right. His eyes dimmed. Although he completely understood what she was saying, he could hear the endless desolation in it. Qingshun, after I die, I'm tired. Luo Qingshun took off her shoes and hugged the blanket as she got into bed. She covered her head and said, Big brother Jiusheng should also rest. She knew that he had been supporting his body the entire time. In this kind of life countdown, if he didn't have a strong will, how could he carry her? Qingshun, sleep first. I'll go check on Yin and then come back. She didn't want to cry in front of him anymore. She had promised to spend the last 3 days warmly, but why did she feel like crying every moment? Was this the story between him and her? Forever, ever, there was no future story. Du Jiusheng was gone for a long time, and when he lay down beside her, it was already 4 hours later. Actually, she hadn't fallen asleep. After he lay down, she reached out and hugged him. His body was slightly cold. She buried her head in the crook of his arm, her right hand gently tugging at the corner of his shirt. This was already the last night. Parting wasn't scary. What was scary was the process of parting. He held her hand tightly, from dawn to day, from warm to cold. In the end, he still couldn't make him stay. The person who divined the stars was really powerful. He could calculate life and death very clearly. There wasn't even a deviation of 2 hours. After Du Jiusheng left, Luo Qingshun personally made a cenotaph for him. On the same day, another major event took place in the palace. The one in the Endless Palace committed suicide and left behind a few words when she died. I live if the ruler lives. I die if the ruler dies. At first glance, it really did seem like the emperor and empress were in love, staying with each other even after death. Actually, Du Jiusheng had also left her a letter. It was probably the letter he secretly wrote when he laid down that day. The letter didn't have that many affectionate words, but when she leaned against his coffin to read it, she couldn't stop crying. Transmigration female lead. Male god, keep teasing. Chapter 38:46. What kind of letter was that? It was like a clean love letter, but it was also like a farewell letter. Between the lines, there was reluctance to part, but there was also joy. I like you. I'll be faithful to you. Only you, only you, only you. His words were very beautiful. Even when his life was about to end, his words were still powerful. What should I say? There are many things I want to say, but I'm afraid of burdening you. I hope that you can live happily. But that day you said that staying behind is the most painful. Thinking about it, that seems to be the case. I've already taken care of the matters in the palace. Muwan Air won't dare make it hard for you. If she dares make it hard for you, even if I'm in the underworld, I will bury her with the sorcerer clan. I had a dream last night. I dreamed the first time I saw you. I thought that if I spent 2 happy years with you, would you be happier when I left? I regret it a bit, but I'm not qualified to regret it. Will you miss me? But I will miss you very, very much. From the sun at dawn to the stars at night. Don't forget me, Luo Qingshun. I really, really love you. Du Jiusheng's final words. This was the letter he wrote to her. It didn't seem to be anything important, but her heart trembled when she saw it. She wiped her tears and put down the letter. She softly tapped the crystal coffin and said, Big brother Jiusheng, write more next time you write a letter. At least leave me something to remember. He didn't leave anything for her in the end. Perhaps other than Yin, she didn't have anything in this world. Imperial tutor Luo became an assistant minister in court again with a high position. Actually, during these years, Du Jiusheng had been giving power to Luo Yu, because at least the Luo family could be her last protection. It was probably because her own matters were a mess. After taking care of Du Jiusheng's matters, she found that her big sister Luo Qing Xin had never married. She said that she was waiting for someone good enough. Even if she was past her marriageable age, even if she was in her twilight years, she wouldn't give her heart to someone who wasn't worth it. She had already given her heart in this life. She wouldn't let the same thing happen again. There were rumors in the palace that after the emperor and empress loved each other, Muwan Air was buried with Du Jiu. But as long as one worked in the Supreme Harmony Palace knew that there was only one person's portrait in the Supreme Harmony Palace. That portrait was the first time Luo Qingshun met Du Jiusheng. It was the portrait in the Ninth King's manor. He always kept her by his side, whether it was a person or a portrait. The empress had no children, so the future of Snow Country naturally fell on Nian and Luo. Yu was very strict with Nian, but fortunately, Nian was smart enough and didn't make things difficult for him. As for Luo, when Du Jiusheng was in the royal palace, she liked to run out, liked to listen to plays, liked talking with the other him. But now that he was gone, she clung to the palace and didn't want to go anywhere. He always liked to walk step by step from the Li Palace to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. After walking a lot, it seemed like he could reach it with his eyes closed. But now, there was only her in the Li Palace and no one in the Supreme Harmony Palace. Suddenly, one afternoon, while she was sleeping soundly, she dreamed of the first time she met Mu Qing in the opera house. That familiar smile, it was actually the same as Du Jiusheng's. What kind of feeling was this? Zhuang Zhou Xiaoming. It was familiar. Chapter 38:47. That day, she left the palace for the first time. Everyone in the palace respected her, and no one dared to ask her where she went. Walking on the streets of the Snow Country, the snowflakes fell, and there was the smell of snow in the air. She closed her eyes and headed to the theater. The theater was filled with guests today, but there was no one sitting where she usually sat on the second floor. She went to the second floor and ordered a pot of by Luo Chun and osmanthus cake after sitting down. When she was with Mu Qing, big brother Jiao Sheng, he didn't like eating osmanthus cake, but he liked drinking by Luo Chun very much. But later on, whether it was osmanthus cake or by Luo Chun, he liked them all. Sometimes he would even order 2 plates of osmanthus cake and 2 pots of by Luo Chun. He said that as long as it was something she liked, he would like it. She really was a fool. How could there be someone whose eyes were like his? Even though there was no longer any light in those deep eyes, it was still him. Today's theater seemed to be a sequel to that play, the story of a girl falling in love with 2 men at the same time. She said that she loved both of them, but when it came to choosing who to be buried with after death, she had made a clear decision. How could there be a person in this world who loved 2 people at the same time? It really was a joke. Luo Qingshun drank the tea in her hand and walked out of the theater. At that moment, she suddenly felt that she didn't like watching plays. She just used it to numb her thoughts and numb her mind. Running away or facing it was a choice, but she didn't have the courage to face Du Jiusheng at all. Really boring. She gave a soft laugh. When she was planning to head back to the palace, she suddenly thought of a place that she wanted to see. Mu Manor. Back then, Du Jiusheng had become a doll and placed his soul into Mu Qing's body. Actually, she knew that if he died, Mu Qing wouldn't exist. But she wanted to take a look. She wanted to see the place that gave her a bit of happiness when she was the most lonely. Standing at the entrance of the Mu Manor, the sign covered in cobwebs was crumbling. Without knowing why, she suddenly felt her nose turn sour and her eyes turned red. She walked forward. It was a bit familiar and a bit unfamiliar. She stood in the same place and closed her eyes. The snowflakes fell gently, and she seemed to be able to hear the voices of the 2 elders of the Mu family. They put food in her bowl, and they cooked her favorite food. At that time, she even cried. Her most important Du Jiusheng. He gave her nothing, but a stranger in this world gave her warmth. Only now did she realize that the person who gave her warmth was none other than someone else. It was that youth whose eyes were dark and filled with ligwang. She squatted down slightly and buried her head in her arms, feeling the sadness that suddenly surged into her heart. In the next second, a voice as cool as water suddenly sounded. Qingshun, what are you doing? Let's go watch the play together. At this moment, her heart trembled deeply. She abruptly turned around and saw a youth dressed in white appear not far away. Snowflakes fell one by one. He smiled gently at her. His face seemed to change slowly, and the color of his clothes turned from white to black. Finally, it turned into that familiar face. He said softly, "Come here." She threw herself into his arms as if she had gone mad. She cried until her voice was hoarse and hoarse, until everything turned black and she couldn't feel anything. At the same time, Imperial concubine Qing in the palace died of illness in the Supreme Harmony Palace. Chapter 38:48. I love your desolate eyes, leaving behind warmth. A desolate heart, running wild. Du Jiusheng. Do you know? The moment I met you, I knew that I couldn't hide. It was like I didn't want to hide. But when Yanyu told me that the Luo family's second miss said those words, I just laughed and never took it seriously. But when I saw her, I knew that I couldn't take it seriously. Perhaps I didn't know what a year was, but I knew that even if she didn't beg me, I wouldn't let her go. I didn't have it, but I was afraid of losing it. This was what I thought of her back then. She said that she wanted to stay, and although I was worried about her safety, I was happy that she could stay. The beginning between us didn't seem to be a wonderful story, but it lasted for a long time. The days when she lived in a manor were the happiest days of my life. Yanyu said that I had changed, so I told him that I had changed. Even I knew that I had changed. I had become restless, and I would often pay attention to her every move. Where she liked to go, I would put on floor heating. The things she liked to eat, I would have the kitchen make them. The things she liked, I would find them for her. It was as if the center of my world had shifted after she appeared. It wasn't snow country, it wasn't the position of crown prince, it wasn't any power. I just want to stay by her side for a long time. That was good enough. But the heavens seemed to have played a joke on me. I used 10 years of my life to see her fate. For someone who knew the past and present, There must be a calamity in her fate. But I never thought that there would be no solution to her calamity. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't solve this calamity. Unless it was a life for a life. But even if it was a life for a life, there were many things that needed to be prepared. I stood on the observatory for a long time and closed my eyes as her faint smile appeared in front of my eyes. That's right. I couldn't let her die. How could I let her die? Drawing a star chart, using a fake star to cover the sky of Snow Country, not letting any god know that I was going against the heavens to change my fate. If I wanted to exchange lifespans with her, I needed a medium. Moreover, that was the only medium. Muwaner. Originally, attacking the western regions wasn't that troublesome, but I couldn't wait any longer. I need to bring Muwaner back to Snow Country within 2 years and let her enter Wayon Palace. The correct star was the best medium. At that time, what I said to Muwaner was quite resolute. Are you willing to use your life in exchange for the lives of all your magi? She smiled bitterly. After a long time, she said, I'm willing. Entering the Wayon Palace was the master position of the stars, while the Li Palace was in the west, a subordinate position. The Hall of Supreme Harmony was located in the east, in the middle. It required a life for a life, and these 3 positions could not be changed. So when Imperial Father asked me to make an oath, I didn't hesitate at all, because I know that I must make Muwaner my empress. I want to use Muwaner's life as a medium so that I can successfully exchange lives with her. She vaguely remembered that oath. I shall die a horrible death, and my soul shall not end. I have never been afraid when I say this oath. Because it was to protect her, I even felt like I was giving myself an explanation without hesitation. These were not important. What was important was that even if I had to go against the heavens, I would still go forward. The right time, the right place, and the right people. Everything I had prepared, I finally took step by step to get to the position I wanted. In this world, anyone could die, but she couldn't. Chapter 38:49. There were times when I even felt that protecting her was a kind of sickness. I didn't care what was right and what was wrong. Or maybe I just want to stay by her side and quietly protect her. Whether it was Du Jiusheng or Mu Qing, as long as I could protect her, I wouldn't ask for anything else. But it seemed like she wasn't that happy. Looking at her always frowning, I realized that this kind of feeling was as painful as it could be. I could keep her, but I couldn't keep myself. But if she wasn't happy, what meaning did I have in doing this? But what should I do? I wanted her to live, but I couldn't bear to see her go through death. Perhaps I couldn't accept her death. For a person like me, such a conceited person, even if my soul scattered, I wouldn't let her die. But I never thought that Muwaner would tell her everything. When making this deal, I told her that she couldn't tell that girl the truth no matter what. Otherwise, the lives of the sorcerer race wouldn't be able to live. I thought that she would at least be afraid. But I never thought that when I only had 3 days left, she would tell her everything. Those words, when she entered the Supreme Harmony Palace, I wanted to say them to her. But I couldn't. I could only let her misunderstand me. That way, she would think that I wasn't worth it and wouldn't be that sad. Actually, not letting her enter the Supreme Harmony Palace was what I should have done. But I couldn't do it. In the last days of his life, when everyone and everything had been completely arranged, he was going to die. I wanted to stay by her side, or perhaps, to let her stay by my side. I was greedy for the warmth that only belonged to her. To me, this was the greatest gift from the heavens. Only when she knew the truth and cried like that, it made me think, if I went to the Ying Chao underworld, could I think a way to escape? Weren't there many evil spirits in this world? Wouldn't evil spirits always wander around the world? If I was an evil spirit, could I always stay by her side? Really, I couldn't bear to see her cry. Really, I couldn't bear to see her cry. If we had another life, I would spend all my life with her. If we had another life, I would definitely recognize her at first glance. If we have another life, actually, as long as I could meet her, I would be very satisfied. He only prayed that the heavens would not be so cruel. He only prayed that time would not be so cruel. The last night of my life, she fell asleep in my arms. Actually, I knew that she wasn't asleep. She's pretending to be asleep, and I'm pretending to think she's asleep. My vision turned black bit by bit. She leaned against me, and her warmth disappeared bit by bit. I wanted to pull my hands back, but I found that my hands had already passed through her body. The night sky outside the window was dark, without a single star. In fact, this was the sky that Snow Country should have. There were no stars in the first place. It was a dream that Xing Chun gave me in her last night. Now that I've woken up, I can't hug her, and she can't find me. I watched as she clenched her fists and shed tears. However, I couldn't hug her and tell her not to cry anymore. Next life. Let's meet again in the next life. I hope that the next life will be beautiful and prosperous. I hope that I can meet you again. Ding, congratulations on bringing a soul fragment into the lead God Space 70 of 100. Chapter 3850. She took a deep breath and returned to the chaos space. It was clearly the most suitable temperature, but she felt cold. It was as if her entire body was surrounded by ice. She squatted down, and the scenes of the past clearly appeared in front of her eyes. Every moment made her feel pain, even when she breathed. Host, she faintly replied and took a deep breath. Does the host want to see the scene after death? No need. Does the host want to start the next world? Silence. After a long time, she said, all right. She couldn't go back to the past. The more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. Name, Luo, Qingxin World Space. Last night stars, a dream mission completion. 100% experience. 7,500/10,000. There are currently 5 items in the portable space. April 5th Exquisite Ring. 9-section Moon Whip. Phoenix Dance Sword. Universal Medicine Box. Permanent ability. Time-Space Freeze Level 7 permanent ability. Teleportation Level 6 permanent ability. Telekinesis Level 3 exchange points. 4,500. Received a special ability bestowed by the Lord God. One time. Can be used in any world. The host's 58th mission panel is below. Appearance. 99 out of 100 strength. 99 out of 100 intelligence. 99 of 100 figure. 99 out of 100 in the next second. The bronze mirror changed. Mission grade. SSS. Experience gained. 500 female lead. Luo Qingxin male lead. Rong Jing supporting female lead. Song Zhiji supporting male lead. Qi mission content. I hope the host can change the original host's life and make her happy. Don't be lenient to those who need to take revenge. Memory is currently being distributed. Please check it. You think I'm invulnerable. I think you're invulnerable. When Luo Qingxun received the memory, she almost didn't recover from that night of stars. She felt her chest suffocate and her heart hurt. It turned out that in this world, there were stories of people who were deeply touched but covered in wounds. 13 years of Qi Kingdom. The original owner's mother, Bai Xing, was the most beautiful woman in the Qi Kingdom. Her father was handsome and confident. At the age of 16, he became the top scholar in martial arts and entered the court as an official. The two were very much in love, and not long after, Bai Xing became pregnant with the original owner. But at this time, the palace was organizing the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. Officials of the 5th rank and above had to bring their families to attend the banquet to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her birthday. Because Bai Xing was pregnant with the original owner, she drank some wine and felt uncomfortable. She left the banquet alone and went out to get some fresh air. Little did he know that his departure was the beginning of this story. Bai Xing knew that it was not easy for her husband, Luo Yuanxian, to be able to enter the court and become an official. Therefore, in front of outsiders, she was well-behaved. Even though she was extremely beautiful, she never lifted her head to look at anyone. He was deeply afraid that he would bring trouble to Luo Yuanxian. But sometimes, this face was a problem. Under the moonlight, the air was filled with the fragrance of wine. Bai Xing was a little drunk. When she almost fell, she fell into a thick and warm embrace. That was the current emperor, Qi Gu. She nodded slightly, and with just one glance, she bumped into a deep pair of eyes. Bai Xing almost immediately came back to her senses and wanted to break free from Qi Gu's embrace. Little did she know that he hugged her even tighter. With a beauty in my arms, how can I let go? This was the first sentence Qi Gu said to Bai Xing. Some people were too obsessed with a single glance. The current emperor, Qi Gu, was not an emperor who lusted after women. The reason why the Qi kingdom could have its current status was because Qi Gu was good at ruling the country. Transmigration female lead. Male god, keep teasing. Chapter 38:51. There were 3,000 beauties in the harem, beauties that could overshadow the moon and put the flowers to shame. Qi Gu wasn't the kind of person who would steal an official's wife, except for Bai Xing. Even though he knew that she was pregnant with his child, he still insisted on making Bai Xing his concubine. Of course, he couldn't do it openly. He had to do it secretly. Although the war at the border was tense, Qi was a big country. Even if they went to war, they wouldn't be in danger. But this time was different. Qi Gu wanted Luo Yuanxian to never return. There was a dead city between Qi and Rome. That city was a ruin left behind by a war 100 years ago. The reason why it was called the City of Death was because everyone in that city had died. No one survived. There was a rumor among the people that everyone in this city was poisoned to death. How cruel the method was. Qi Gu sent Luo Yuanxian to lead the Luo army to the border and fight with Rome. Qi Gu was strong, but Rome was stronger. The Luo army was brave and good at fighting, but the reinforcements didn't come. They could only retreat. In the end, they were attacked from all sides and trapped in the dead city. And the reinforcements still didn't come. In fact, it wasn't that they didn't come. Qi Gu didn't plan on letting Luo Yuanxian go back alive. He loved Bai Xing to the point where he couldn't control himself. The more Bai Xing resisted, the more he loved her. It was a love that went deep into his bones. That was why he had done such a heartless and unjust thing to his subjects. In the end, Luo Yuanxian died in the dead city as he wished. The entire Luo army was wiped out. No one survived. Bai Xing cried in the palace. The 3 feet long white silk was wrapped around her. She planned to go to hell with Luo Yuanxian. Luckily, Qi Gu arrived and cut the white silk with his sword. Bai Xing, the Luo family is gone. The child in your stomach is the only connection to him in this world. Think carefully. Qi Gu's face was as cold as ice, but his heart hurt like it was being stabbed by needles. He actually had to say such words in order to keep her life. How much did he love her? He loved her so much that he was drunk and crazy. Why? Bai Xing collapsed on the ground and screamed with all her might. Her tears fell drop by drop. She was just a little girl, a woman who wanted to spend the rest of her life with her beloved husband. In this life, in her world, there was nothing but satisfaction. She was glad that the man she liked also liked her. They were married, they were in love, and she was pregnant. If it wasn't for that night, everything would be so perfect. Qi Gu squatted down and frowned. Because I love you. I love you like a madman. In the end, Bai Xing did not commit suicide. Qi Gu was right. The child at her belly was the only connection between her and Luo Yuanxian after they were separated by life and death. This child was innocent. She could not die. She had no right to decide whether he lived or died. After Bai Xing was taken in as an imperial concubine, the people in the palace called her Imperial Concubine Xing. The palace she lived in was rebuilt by Qi and was named Apricot Flower Palace. Not only that, Qi Gu also had someone change the records in the palace and favor Bai Xing one day. Her child could not have been born out of thin air, and he did not wish for there to be any rumors or discussions in the palace. Just like that, the original owner was born. She inherited Bai Xing's devastatingly beautiful face and became the most beautiful princess of the Qi kingdom. These years, Qi Gu was very good to Bai Xing, the kind of good to the bone. There was even a rumor among the people that the emperor fell into the water and only saved one. Transmigration female lead. Male god, can't stop flirting. Chapter 38:52. There were a lot of disputes in the harem, but a man who was smart enough, good enough, and knew how to see through people's hearts would completely protect the woman he loved. He wouldn't let her suffer any harm. As the name implied, no matter how jealous the women in the harem were, they wouldn't dare to do anything to her. How smart was Qi Gu? There was nothing in the world that he didn't know. In the past 10 years, there had never been such a thing as rain and dew. At most, he would go to other concubines a few times a month. The rest of the time, Qi Gu was in Apricot Flower Palace. Therefore, when Qi Gu was middle-aged, he had very few sons, only 3. Other than the empress's remaining son, Crown Prince Chi. There were only the second prince and the third prince. As for the princess, she was the last. Because after Bai Xing entered the palace, no princess or prince was born in the palace. The concubines in the other palaces were less favored because of Qi Gu, but Bai Xing was because she secretly found someone to make a medicine. Even though Qi Gu doted on her crazily, she couldn't get pregnant. In the second half of her life, she could let her body be controlled by others, but she couldn't let herself get pregnant. This was her only self-respect left. In fact, she knew that Qi Gu was very good to her, the kind that was almost crazy. But this kind was built on her hatred and her pain. The original owner grew up little by little. Qi Gu doted on her even more. She looked at Qi Gu, then looked at the original owner with mixed feelings in her heart. Perhaps even her cold heart would be melted. Bai Xing wasn't a superior person. A man with the highest power and status always bowed and bent his knees in front of her. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. The longer the days went by, the more she couldn't hate this man. His children grew up day by day. He grew old day by day. The power in his hands was not as good as before. And her body was getting worse day by day. When she was dying, Qi Gu stayed by her side every day. They didn't talk much. He was basically the one doing the talking. But when she was lying on the bed, she talked a lot more. You know, I've always hated you, but I have to admit, I'm more and more greedy for this warmth. Sometimes I wonder if I had met you first instead of him, would we have? Forget it. This life is already coming to an end, but it's not important anymore. I don't hate you anymore. She wanted to say something but hesitated. There were a few more words that she wanted to say, but in the end, she didn't say them. Perhaps this was for the best. Perhaps they should just look at each other in silence and end things like this. Qi Gu gently touched her face. Tears fell from the corner of her eyes. She chuckled like a child. You don't have to say it. I already know what you want to say from your eyes. Xing, we are very happy. Crown Prince Chi was an honest and considerate person and was very good to the original host. If he became the future crown prince, he would definitely be able to protect the original host. After Bai Xing's death, Qi Gu gradually distributed the various forces in his hands to the crown prince. The only thing that wasn't given out was the tiger tally for Qi Nation's 300,000-strong army. In order to let the original owner live a more peaceful and smooth life, Qi gave the tiger tally to the original owner. This world belonged to the one with the tiger tally. Although everyone was surprised by Qi Gu's action, they were not shocked to the point of shock. Transmigration female lead. My idol, I can't stop flirting with you. Chapter 38:53. Because Qi Gu doted on this princess more than anyone else. And this princess, in the depths of the palace, had feelings for another person. The previous host had always known that she wasn't Qi Gu's daughter, but Qi Gu doted on her so much that she didn't have any feelings for the father that Bai Xing mentioned. Even if she knew that Qi Gu had personally killed her father, she couldn't hate him like Bai Xing did to Qi Gu. Because in the previous host world, she had always been happy since she was young. She was a princess that was doted on by Qi Gu, and no one dared to bully her. She had grown up with the princes since she was young, and the crown prince, Qi was very good to her. Although part of the reason was because Qi Gu doted on her. The second prince, Qi Yuan, was a very elegant person. He liked the 4 arts and didn't love the country. And the third prince, Qi. The previous host first saw Qi Yi when she was 5 years old. She recognized this youth from her muddled memories. He was wearing white clothes that brushed against the snow and was incomparably beautiful. His face was always gloomy, and she had never seen him smile at all. At that time, the previous host was very curious and came into contact with Qi Yi. Third brother, why don't you smile? Is third brother troubled by something? Why do you always smile so happily? I'm not troubled. Why can't I be happy? You're not? A dark light flashed in Qi Ye's eyes. Have you never thought of taking revenge for your father? The previous host was stunned. That pretty little face was slightly pale. There were people in the palace who knew about her background, but not everyone dared to talk about it. Qi Yi was the first person to talk about her identity. She looked at his eyes for a long time. Some people couldn't be forgotten with a single glance. It was like a brand of fire that was deeply imprinted in her heart. Like Gu to Bai Xing, like the previous host to Yi. The previous host had always told herself that she didn't need to be too stubborn about her father, because Gu was very good to her, so good that she could completely forget. But they were blood relatives. The older they grew, the more indescribable emotions they had. Back then, Luo Yuanxian wasn't the only one who died in the Luo family. Everyone in the Luo family had died. Or perhaps this was just an excuse the original owner gave herself. She liked Xie. Without any explanation, she liked him from the bottom of her heart. Perhaps it was because he was the first one to open her long sealed scar. That pair of beautiful eyes seemed to be able to see straight into her heart, making her heart beat uncontrollably. She knew his ambition. He wanted to unify the country and make a name for himself. He didn't just want to be a useless prince. He wanted to be the crown prince. He wanted to be the king of Qi Kingdom. He had the wisdom, but he didn't have the ability. But the original owner had, although the 300,000 tiger tally could not make him the crown prince, it could help him recruit forces in the imperial court. However, it would be too strange if he only took out the tiger tally for 300,000 soldiers. At the age of 16, the original owner decided to follow the army and fight on the battlefield. Qinger naturally took royal father's tiger tally and should contribute to my great Qi mountains. She was reluctant to let her go. How could he let her be in danger? The previous host continued. Imperial Mother had a wish before she died. She wanted Qinger to go to the dead city to take a look for her. Gu's brows were tightly knitted. In the end, he sighed deeply and said, I will have people protect you well. Go take a look and then come back. Yes. Transmigration female lead. Male god, keep teasing. Chapter 38:54. Qi did not know that the original host had not only inherited her mother's beauty, but also her father's bravery and fighting prowess. The original host on the battlefield did not seem to be the little girl who was catching butterflies in the back garden of the palace. She was extremely talented. Although she had never wielded a sword, she learned very quickly. After putting on the armor, her sparkling eyes changed. She became cold and indifferent, becoming ruthless and resolute. She wanted to use her own way to expand Qiye's power in the imperial court. She knew that she would let down the crown prince, Qi Zhe, and even her father. But for some reason, as if she had lost her mind, she desperately wanted to be with him. The battlefield was not the palace. After 8 months of smoke, she was no longer the same when she returned. Her fair skin was slightly tanned, and her body was no longer flawless. There were wounds all over it, but her eyes still looked bright. She looked at Qi Yi, and there seemed to be light in her eyes. At this moment, another woman stood beside Qi Yi, the prime minister's daughter, Song Jiji. She was known as the second most beautiful woman in the Qi kingdom. Qi stood beside her, and they were both dressed in white. They looked so compatible. This was the first time the original host lowered her head and felt unconfident about her appearance. But she did not know that even if her skin was no longer fair, even if her body was injured, she was still good-looking, which was something that Song Jiji could never compare to. That night, she waited until Song Jiji left the palace before entering Qiye's bedroom. She looked at him, her eyes slightly red, and called out, "Third brother. It's good that you're back." Qi patted her head and said, "I'm going to marry Jiji in a few days. This way, I'll have the power of the prime minister." When the original host heard this, she felt a buzz in her head and subconsciously took a step back. When she entered the palace today, she felt that there was something wrong between Qi Yi and Song Jiji. Now that she thought about it, a woman's premonition was very accurate. I still need one more city to surpass the crown prince. Are you willing to take it for me? She was silent for a while. I'm willing. When she left Qi Ye's bedroom, he asked her another question. This time, she did not hesitate. Do you believe me? I do. When the original host took down the city and returned to the palace, it was already a year later. At that time, Qia had already married Song Jiji as the crown princess. Her face was slightly haggard, and there were many more wounds on her body. Taking down this city was not as easy as they had imagined. Furthermore, the newly crowned king of her own kingdom was exceptionally smart. They had only managed to take down this city after using 10% of the Qi Kingdom's military strength. Before killing 1,000 enemies, they had already lost 800 of their own men. The original owner had been in the army for so many years and knew that this was not a good deal, but she had no other choice. She had to win this battle. Even if she had to sacrifice many of her men of sacrifice, she could not lose. Because she wanted to return to his side, but unfortunately, there was already someone else standing by his side. When the original owner returned to the capital, Qi Gu's health was getting worse and worse. The imperial physician said that he had fallen ill from longing. She knew that the person this ancient emperor was longing for was none other than his deceased mother, Bai Xing. On her deathbed, Qi Gu called her to the bed and gently touched her head. "Qing, are you sure you want to do this?" He had doted on this daughter since she was young. Although she was not his biological daughter, he doted on her like she was the apple of his eye. "Yes, he is not a good person." "I know." "Then why did imperial father think that imperial mother was a good person before?" Qi Gu was silent for a while before saying, "She was a good person to him." Read the latest chapter of Transmigration Female Lead, Prince Charming, Teasing Incessant Claw bookstore for free. Chapter 3855. Father, I believe in him. This was the last sentence that the original owner said to Qi Gu. That night, Qi Gu collapsed. The palace was filled with wails, and Qi Yi found her immediately. She knew that he needed her the most at this time. After so many years, you probably don't need me to say anything. You should know what to do. I know. Do you believe me? I do. The original owner took out the edict that Qi Gu had given her. The content of the edict was to depose the crown prince and make Qi Yi emperor. Qi had always thought that this edict was fake, but it was actually real. This was the last bit of effort that Qi Gu had used to protect the original owner. He had helped his beloved daughter and only hoped that his son would not let her down. With the late emperor's edict and the 300,000 tiger talismans in the original owner's hands, it was impossible for Crown Prince Qi Zhe to ascend to the throne. 3 days later, Qi Yi officially ascended to the throne. The other princes, including the former crown prince and all the henchmen in the court who were not Qi Yi, fell into panic. The original owner felt that she had let down the former crown Prince Qi Zhe, so she went to find Qi Yi that day. "You can only make one request of me. Are you sure you want to use it to save him?" He put on the dragon robe, and the light in his eyes deepened, making it harder for people to see through him. But for the original owner, it made her sink deeper and deeper. "Yes. Don't you want to return to my side?" "I do." "Then why did you save him?" "I had to. Do one thing for me. Not only will I let him go, after it's done, you can always be by my side." "What is it?" "I need you to go to Rome and steal secrets. I want to unify the world, and Rome is the biggest obstacle." "How should I go? Do you believe me?" "I do." "Then treat it as a gift for Qi country to build a good relationship with him. I trust you. Only you can do this." After a long while, a mocking smile appeared on her lips. Okay, she understood him, or perhaps she didn't, but she more or less understood him. That pair of eyes seemed to be telling her not to come back. Thinking about it, she was originally a sharp blade in his hand, a weapon. But now that he had ascended to the throne, the tiger talisman in her hand was a threat to him. However, she still believed in him. "I will definitely bring you back." All right, this was the last thing they said. Qi and Rome were on good terms, and Xie had sent the most favored princess of Qi to Rome. However, before they reached Rome, the host group was ambushed. She risked her life to bring her guards and escaped into the city of death. She kept thinking of ways to ask for his help. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, there was nothing in the city of death. They were trapped. The entire area outside the city was filled with assassins. If they went out, they would be courting death. She could die, but her guards couldn't. Those were Qi Ye's guards. How could she let them die? However, he did not show up even after sending out 10 consecutive orders of support. He asked her to believe him, but it seemed that he was dead. Having been on the battlefield all year round, she naturally knew that she would not be able to survive the night. The assassins seemed to want to take her head, but she couldn't let them have their way. That night, she set fire to her house, burning down the city that was already in ruins. No one could understand the pain in his heart. Even if it was so painful that he couldn't breathe, no one would know. If she hadn't given her life to the wrong person, she wouldn't have ended up like this. Did she regret it? She should regret it in the end. Read the latest chapter of Transmigration Female Lead, Prince Charming, Teasing Incessant Claw Bookhouse, for free. Chapter 3856. After receiving all the memories, Luo Qingshun felt her surroundings become hot. Time didn't return to before she met Qi Yi or before she fell in love with Qi Yi. Rather, it was the end of the story, when she burned down the city of death. If the host is in a daze, this mission will be over. Don't speak. I found that you should be repairing it. At such a dangerous time, can't you give out the memories a bit later? The host is receiving the memories too slowly. This story is so long, it needs to be slowly digested. Luo Qingshun didn't have time to think as she jumped into the lake downstairs from the window. The death attendants that followed the previous host had all been sent away. They were dead, injured, and escaped. The previous host was already disheartened, so naturally she didn't care about the lives of all those people. If they could escape, it would be heaven's kindness. If they couldn't, then it was fate. Luo Qingshun flopped in the water for a while before she decided to change out of this heavy armor. The host can use exchange points. The system can not only prepare clothes for the host, it can also give the host a beautiful face. Then I really have to thank you. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. The system has successfully exchanged for a moon-white pleated thousand-water dress. It also gave the host a simple and elegant face. Luo Qingshun wanted to scold it for acting on its own, but looking at the lake, she found that her hair and makeup weren't bad. It really was the system that had followed her for thousands of years. It really understood her. She took off her armor and put on a moon-white dress. Her long hair was combed into a lily bun, and there was a jade fan dangling from her head. Her slightly elegant makeup made her face no longer look dark and aged. Her originally clear eyes were covered with a layer of frost. That was the light in her eyes that were as indifferent as floating waves. Luo Qingshun patted off the dust on her body and took out the Phoenix Dance sword from her storage space. Want to kill her? This wasn't a special world. Some people didn't have this ability. The sky gradually darkened, and the assassins outside the city saw that the city of death was burning. So they entered the city. Although they entered the city, they were very careful. They were still afraid of the host. That innocent girl had actually raised her spear and gripped her sword tightly for a man. But in the end, what did he get? One sentence, I believe, one life. Under the moonlight, Luo Qingshun could feel her hands trembling as she gripped her sword. Even if the original owner didn't hate her, she still hated her. Qi had clearly gotten everything he wanted, so why did he still treat the original owner like this? He clearly knew that as long as he said a word, the original owner would personally hand over the 300,000 tiger talismans with both hands. However, he still hoped to maximize her value. If he could gain the trust of the Rhone Kingdom's emperor and steal military secrets, he would be able to make use of her. This was a good plan. But did Qi Yi really think that she was invulnerable to weapons and poisons? Luo Qingshun closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, there was a cold light in his eyes. His thin lips were light. Since you are here, don't think about going back alive. Who is it? The assassins all looked over when they heard the voice. Under the bright moonlight, Luo Qingshun's clothes were as white as snow, and the Phoenix Dance sword in her hand was shining with a dark red light. It was as if this sword could feel its master's anger and couldn't help wanting to start massacre. Hee. The leader of the black-clothed men gave a cold laugh. You're still not leaving. It seems like you're tired of living. Then you'll have to see if you have the ability. Read the latest chapter of Transmigration Female Lead, Male God, Teasing Incessant Claw Bookstore, for free. Chapter 3857. In the next second, there was a quang-dang sound as the blade in her hand fell. She directly took the head of the black-clothed man on the right. Fresh blood spurted out, and the air was filled with the smell of blood. Everyone was startled as they looked at the white-clothed young girl in front of them in disbelief. She seemed to be a brave warrior, but she also seemed to be an ordinary white-clothed young girl. but her eyes made people feel fear, and their hair stood on end. Because her speed was simply too fast, so fast that they didn't even see how she raised her hand, but the sword had already fallen. "You!" The leader of the black-clothed men sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "Who are you?" Why did he feel that the other party was emitting such a terrifying aura, as if it was going to swallow them up? "Is it important?" Luo Qingqian's cold eyes narrowed as she said, "Come at me together." Under the cold light of the moon, she did not hold back at all. Fresh blood dyed her white clothes red, and her clear eyes were bloodshot. Her eyes were red from killing, where the hatred in her heart could not be quelled. They were just tools for her to vent her anger. The bright moonlight was buried in the black clouds. The ground was covered in blood, and the blood flowed like a river. Only half of the assassins were left, and they were all injured. Although Luo Qingqian was covered in blood, she was not injured in the slightest. Since it was not a special plane, the Phoenix Dance Sword was a divine weapon here. No other weapon had a place in front of it. You! The leader of the black-clothed men covered the sword wound on his chest. He retreated while saying, "She will not let you go. Want to run?" Luo Qingqian gave a cold smile. "Do you think that in front of me, you have a chance to run?" See, in the next second, the leaves not far away rustled. Luo Qingqian's ears moved slightly. She felt that at this moment in Death City, other than her and the black-clothed men in front of her, there was someone else. If there was, that person's martial arts must be very high. Because she could not determine the direction with the exquisite ring, it proved that the other party's breathing was very light. "Luo Qingqian, do you think you can win?" The leader of the black-clothed men seemed to be making a final struggle. He didn't want to kneel and beg for mercy, but he knew in his heart that unless Luo Qingqian let him go, he would undoubtedly die tonight. Although they were death servants, in the face of life and death, their timidity would be limitless. At this moment, he just wanted to live, and he really wanted to live. At a time like this, the only thing he could do was fight to the death. The hidden weapons on his body were all highly toxic. As long as Luo Qingqian was unlucky enough to be hit, they would win. Otherwise, they would definitely be wiped out. Time was too tight, and there was no time to think. The men in black looked at each other. At the same time, they put down their swords and threw their hidden weapons in the direction of Luo Qingqian. What kind of person was she? How could these hidden weapons hurt her? Overestimating yourselves. Just as Luo Qingqian was about to use the exquisite ring to knock down these hidden weapons, a youth wearing a black gown blocked in front of her. The poisonous hidden weapons hit him directly. Only hearing a groan, Luo Qingqian was stunned. This was the first time she was stunned since coming to this plane. Her head was buzzing, and it was actually somewhat blank. What was this situation? Why did someone suddenly appear in front of her? Could it be that this person was here to make fun of her? Hey, Luo Qingqian didn't have time to ask. She clenched her Phoenix Dance Sword and attacked the remaining black-clothed men. After a while, all the black-clothed men fell to the ground one by one. No one survived. Read the latest chapter of Transmigration Female Lead, Male God, Teasing Incessant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 3858. After dealing with the trouble in front of her, Luo Qingqian hurriedly walked to the youth's side. The youth was dressed in black, and his face was slightly pale. His lips were a little purple, but even so, it couldn't hide his bewitching appearance. The hidden weapon is poisonous. Luo Qingqian knit her brows and said, "Where did it come from? Wasn't this the ghost town? Why did a person appear out of nowhere? Also, why did she feel that this youth's brain wasn't very good? Please, anyone with a discerning eye could see that she could definitely dodge those hidden weapons. So, why did this person directly rush out? Also, who would believe that he could block the hidden weapons with his body?" The other party only groaned and didn't say anything. In the next second, he fainted beside her. Luo Qingqian's current mood was, what was this situation? She had a bunch of things to do, but before she even started, she had already picked up a seriously injured youth. But the other party was like this to save her, so she couldn't just ignore it. Luo Qingqian gently took his pulse. Although it was a little messy because of the poison, it was very stable. There shouldn't be any danger to his life. But why did he faint so directly? She knit her brows slightly and carried the youth towards the inn where they had stayed before. Actually, rather than an inn, it was the only place to stay in the ruins. After busying herself for about an hour, she made a fire and took out some medicinal herbs to apply to his wounds. They only didn't have any food, but there were still a lot of medicinal herbs left. She looked at the youth who was sleeping soundly and narrowed her eyes. She held her chin with her right hand and muttered in her heart, "Could it be someone from Rongwa? If it was someone from Rongwa, it would be good." At least she had found a way to get close to Rongjing. Probably because she was too tired in the previous world, she had just experienced a fire and a one versus many battle. Her eyelids were already starting to droop. After a while, she fell asleep beside the youth. The next morning, when she opened her hazy eyes, a picturesque face appeared in front of her. Luo Qingchun was stunned and unconsciously took a step back. The youth narrowed his eyes, and a faint darkness flashed in his eyes. "Are you all right?" Luo Qingchun blinked. Seeing that he didn't speak, she frowned and said, "Don't tell me you don't know how to speak." In the next second, Li Guang flashed across the young man's ink-black eyes. He looked at her and nodded desperately. "Luo Qingchun, then can you write?" The young man nodded again. She picked up the branch on the ground and handed it to the young man. "Then write down what I ask." The young man took the branch and nodded with a wooden face, as if he really was a silly child. "What's his name?" As soon as she asked the first question, Luo Qingchun felt the young man's eyebrows slightly knit. She was stunned and looked at him in disbelief. He picked up the branch and wrote 2 words on the ground. "Yao Yao." What the hell? Luo Qingchun doubted it in her heart. Why would there be someone with such a strange name? However, it could also be because they were outside and couldn't speak, so they were more cautious with strangers. She tried to explain the situation to the young man, but she felt that something was not quite right. If he was being cautious, why would he sacrifice himself to save someone? However, she didn't think too much about it and continued to ask, "So are you from Rongwa?" Without hesitation, he wrote, "Yes." Chapter 38:59. Luo Qingchun's eyes flashed with a faint light. "Then bring me to the Rong kingdom later." He was slightly stunned. His eyes were as clear as limpid autumn waters. After a long while, he moved the branch in his hand. Why do you want to go to the Rong kingdom? Luo Qingchun thought for a moment. She had to find a proper reason that wouldn't affect anything, so she continued, "I'm an ordinary citizen of the border town. I have always admired the Rong kingdom's ruler, so I want to go and see him." "What do you admire him for?" Luo Qingchun blinked lightly, then blinked again, "Because the ruler is good-looking. Moreover, he is brimming with talent. I have always admired him." Although she felt extremely guilty when she said this, she couldn't help it. She had to make up for her own lies. The youth's eyes darkened, and a faint light flashed through them. The branch fell lightly. "Have you seen him?" Luo Qingchun thought to herself. Why does this person have so many questions? Can't he be more direct? So what if he is good-looking? Of course. Luo Qingchun pursed her lips and said, "I will never see his appearance in my life." The next second, the youth revealed an expression of realization. Luo Qingchun blinked her clear eyes and said, "Have you rested enough? If you are, let's set off." Originally, they had already been delayed by the assassins surrounding the dead city. Although she couldn't wait to break the deal between the Qi Kingdom and the Rong Kingdom, she had traveled thousands of miles to come here. She couldn't just go back without even seeing Rongjing's face. No, she definitely couldn't go back. There were no carriages along the way. Yellow sand rolled along the border. Luo Qingchun felt that she was full from eating sand. However, the youth standing beside her didn't seem to feel uncomfortable at all. His eyes were filled with joy, but for some reason, his pair of clear eyes seemed to be suffused with an unfathomable light. It covered up his original dark glow. The more Luo Qingchun looked into his eyes, the more she could see something, but she couldn't tell what it was. After eating sand for 2 days, they arrived at the main city of Rome, Tidal Dream. This was a very nice name because it faced the sea and was backed by the desert. Therefore, there was the saying of tides in ancient times, and now there is the yellow sand of dreams. The name of the main city was changed about 100 years ago, but she wasn't too sure about the specifics. After all, to the original owner, Rongwa's memories were equivalent to nothing. There was only one person in her world, Chi Yi. Unfortunately, she had married the wrong person, so she had married the wrong person for the rest of her life. Luo Qingxun had a lot of money on her, so she found a relatively comfortable inn to stay in. She thought that the inn would be empty, but when she went in, the innkeeper said that there was only one room, so she could only stay with Yao Yao. Although it seemed like she was at a disadvantage, she knew in her heart that she was already an old monster that was immune to poison. In terms of losses, it was the mute youth who was at a disadvantage. Since there's only one room, I'll sleep on the bed tonight. Can I sleep on the floor? Luo Qingxun blinked, and the youth nodded slightly. However, this night wasn't so good. Around midnight, a woman's sharp voice came from next door. Luo Qingxun rubbed her eyes. Yao Yao didn't seem to be sleeping, and she didn't know where he went. She stuck her head out of the window and saw two women in luxurious clothes fighting. They grabbed each other's hair and didn't show any mercy. Chapter 3860. You're just the daughter of an insignificant official. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Do you know who I am? Who doesn't know? Aren't you the sister of the top scholar? Your brother just entered the court and has no foundation, yet you're already making a scene. What a good sister you are. Who are you talking about making a scene? You ugly freak. Could it be that with your looks, you think the king will take a fancy to you? I don't know if the king will take a fancy to me, but the king definitely won't take a fancy to you. Why don't you take a look in the mirror? You're already so old, yet you still want to enter the palace? The two of them quarreled and wrestled, and the crowd came out to watch the show. Luo Qingxun listened to the gossip around her and more or less knew what was going on. It seems that no matter if it was the modern era or the ancient era, she couldn't escape the identity of a spectator. When the current emperor ascended the throne, there was no one in the harem. There are rumors among the people that this emperor, cough, cough, trouble comes from mouth. I advise you to think carefully about what you should and shouldn't say. Yes, yes, yes. That person continued. That's why. This time, the officials took advantage of the Qi kingdom, sending the princess to the king to jointly write a petition to request the king to take a concubine and set up an empress. I also heard about this matter, but what kind of person is the current emperor? He was the youngest emperor of the previous emperor. I heard that, just by getting close to him, you'll feel a bone-chilling cold. Lower your voice. You don't want the head, but I do. Luo Qingxun probably heard the words bone-chilling cold and shivered. Suddenly, she really felt a bone-chilling cold. At this time, Yao Yao patted her shoulder. Luo Qingxun called out in surprise as she looked at him in shock. Why is there no sound when you walk? Yao Yao rubbed his eyes and looked at her with an innocent face. The two women in front were still quarreling. Luo Qingxun sighed softly and pretended to be infatuated. She put her palms together and said, "My Prince Charming is so popular." As soon as her voice fell, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. After thinking for a moment, she continued, "But why did he suddenly want to take a concubine? He can't be a scumbag, right?" PFFF cough cough cough. Not far away, Yao Yao, who was originally leisurely, suddenly coughed. Her originally beautiful face was smeared with a layer of red, bright and clear like the stars in the sky. "Why are you coughing?" Luo Qingxun looked at the time and said, "No, we can't wait anymore. We must enter the palace immediately. Otherwise, once those orioles and swallows enter the palace, won't it be even more troublesome?" But the problem was, she didn't even have a document. How could she enter the palace? Luo Qingxun glanced at Yao Yao, and a faint light flashed in her eyes as she said, "Now that we are in the wrong country, you should go find your family. I still have important matters to attend to." Yao Yao dipped her hand in the tea and wrote a line on the table. "Do you want to enter the palace?" "Yes." Luo Qingxun nodded. "But I can't bring you into the palace." "Why?" "Because..." Luo Qingxun couldn't find an excuse at the moment, so she directly said her purpose. "I want to marry the king of the wrong country." Yao Yao slightly lowered his eyes. Luo Qingxun couldn't see his expression, but from this direction, she could feel that he was depressed. Chapter 38:61. When Luo Qingquan saw this, she waved her hand slightly and said, "Don't be like this. All good things must come to an end. Moreover, my identity is different. There must be something that I have to do." Ever since she accepted this memory, what had been lingering in her heart was not how she met Rong Jing, but how to take revenge on Qi Yi. This memory was too heavy and too painful, so she would think about it from time to time. If she wanted to return to Qi Kingdom, she must see Rong Jing as soon as possible. However, although they had experienced thousands of years of reincarnation, she was not completely sure that he would definitely fall in love with her. But she hoped that she could be loved warmly in this world. As she thought about it, her eyes turned slightly red. When Yao Yao saw this, she frowned slightly and wrote on the surface of the tea, "Go. You have to protect yourself." His head was still lowered, so she could not see his expression clearly. Just as she was about to go forward, he turned and left the room. Luo Qingquan sighed softly and did not chase after him. According to the words of the people, Rong Jing should be a cold king. In addition, he did not have a woman by his side all these years. His personality must be very strange. He did not know how to speak. Even if she disguised herself as his follower and entered the palace, other than bringing danger to his life, there was no benefit. When Luo Qingquan thought about it, she felt that her decision this time was quite correct. The next morning, she woke up early. Yao Yao was already gone, so she could only enter the palace alone. For her, entering the palace was not that difficult. She had Qi Kingdom's document and her own skills. If she really could not enter the palace by force, she could. Little did she know that just as she was about to leave the inn, someone called out to her, "Miss, please wait." Luo Qingquan turned around and looked at the middle-aged man in front of her. Beside him stood a woman of marriageable age. Her appearance was average, but she was dressed in gold and silver, giving off a very luxurious feeling. She knew this woman. It was a woman who fought with the sister of the top scholar last night. "I am a small official in a border county. May I ask for your name?" Lin Lan looked into her eyes, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. "What's the matter?" Luo Qingquan's voice was very cold. First of all, it was definitely not a good thing for such an official to call her. Moreover, she really didn't want to waste her time on such worthless people. "Hey, watch your words." By the side, Lin Fangfang could not stand it any longer. She pointed at Luo Qingquan's nose and said, "My father is an official. When a citizen sees an official, they have to kneel. Do you know that?" "Oh." Luo Qingquan responded indifferently and was about to turn around and leave. Seeing this, Lin Lan hurriedly stopped her and said, "Miss, please wait a moment. Judging from your attire, you are not from the Rong nation. May I ask for your help?" "Looking at my daughter's attitude, it doesn't seem like she wants my help." Luo Qingquan narrowed her eyes and crossed her arms. "If you have something to say, just say it. I may not help." Lin Fangfang curled her lips. Although she was very angry, it was not good for her to say anything. After all, her father had already humbled himself. If she was rude and unreasonable, it would be unreasonable. "Miss, when you were sitting in the inn last night, you should have heard about the dispute between my daughter and the sister of the top scholar. It is normal for young people to have a dispute when they are young and hot-blooded. As far as I know, hot-blooded shouldn't be used to describe a woman." Luo Qingquan lightly snorted and said, "I only want to hear the result. There is no need to talk about the process. May I ask Miss to enter the palace with my daughter?" Chapter 38:62. Luo Qingquan looked into Lin Lan's eyes and then glanced at Lin Fangfang. She seemed to know what he was going to say. Every concubine who entered the palace with a bit of status would bring a dowry. If the dowry was pretty, it would give the concubine a chance to gain the emperor's favor. Lin Fangfang's appearance was indeed very ordinary. When she walked into the inn, her father, Lin Lan, looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. So that was his motive. "Huh." Luo Qingquan sneered. "With your daughter's attitude, you want me to help you? Doesn't official Lin find it laughable?" She emphasized the word official to mock Lin Fangfang's words. People had to kneel whenever they saw an official. Perhaps that was true, but she was born with this temper. What could she do if she didn't kneel? Hey, Lin Fongfong still wanted to say something, but Lin Lan directly interrupted her. I can see that Miss is new to the Rome Kingdom. Otherwise, with Miss's appearance, you would have achieved great things. This old man's suggestion is killing two birds with one stone from Mississippi. Lin Lan's temper seemed to be good, and he spoke very calmly. Luo Qingshun slightly narrowed her eyes, and the corners of her mouth curved into an extremely faint sneer. You think that I can enter the palace to help your daughter with this reason? Official Lin is too naive. Hey, you're simply refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Who do you think you are? My father chose you because he thinks highly of you. What do you mean by being so arrogant? As Lin Fongfong spoke, she wanted to step forward and beat Luo Qingshun. Little did she know that a single glance from Lin Fongfong had forcefully intimidated her. What is my status? Luo Qingshun coldly smiled and said, It's definitely a status that you can't match. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left the inn without hesitation. In fact, it would be much easier for her to enter the palace with Lin Fongfong than to enter the palace alone. However, she was arrogant, and she didn't even deign to cooperate with some people. Lin Lan lowered her eyes and looked at Luo Qingshun's back. Her face was gloomy. Lin Fongfong, who was standing beside him, angrily stomped her feet and said, Father, why do you have to lower your voice and beg this kind of woman? He had no status. No status. Isn't she just a little prettier? You're still young and inexperienced, so you don't understand. Lin Lan narrowed her eyes and said, Her words and actions are not calm, as if she is isolated from the world. If a woman with such an appearance enters the palace, she will be your biggest obstacle. He glanced at his daughter and frowned slightly. There was indeed a gap between her appearance and the word beauty. In addition, her temper was so irritable. If she were to encounter a ruthless character after entering the palace, she would be doomed. Originally, he thought that if he could borrow the strength of that person, perhaps his daughter could. Lin Lan shook her head gently. There was no point in saying this now. He could only wait and see after entering the palace. At the same time, the City of Death. A group of elite troops from the Qi Kingdom arrived, led by a young man dressed in black. He stood in the middle of the City of Death with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were gloomy and cold. Master, we can't find her. The young man holding a long sword cupped his fist and said, Many places here have been burned. Some of the corpses are already unrecognizable. Find her. His voice was very cold, like a cold lake in winter. If she's alive, I want to see her. If she's dead, I want to see her corpse. Yes. Chapter 3863. After standing outside the palace for a long time, Luo Qingshun kept thinking about whether she should break in or use her wits. She stood at the door for about half an hour. Suddenly, a soldier came out with the imperial notice. Luo Qingshun's eyes lit up. She immediately went forward to take a look. There was a big recruit written on the imperial notice. She thought it was recruiting palace maids. She didn't expect it to be recruiting medical women. The content of the notice was very simple. It was about the imperial physicians who encountered a difficult disease. Therefore, they were recruiting people with great medical skills to enter the palace. Luo Qingshun thought. She had enough confidence in her medical skills. However, why did she feel that this imperial notice was a bit too coincidental? She stood there and hesitated for a while. She didn't have time to think and directly tore down the imperial notice. The soldier who posted the notice was stunned. He turned around and looked at her. Miss knows medical skills? I still want my head. I won't let it fall. Luo Qingshun shook the imperial notice in her hand and said, Please take me to the palace. The soldier looked up and down at the woman in front of him. Then he nodded and said, Miss, please come with me. There was a touch of doubt and disbelief in his eyes, but it was obvious that he didn't dare to say more. When Luo Qingshun entered the palace, it was also the time for the young mistresses to enter the palace. The two women who quarreled at the inn last night had to walk side by side today. Not far away, Luo Qingshun could still hear the voice of the mama, No matter what your previous identity is, after entering the palace, you will serve the king. You should put away your arrogant and indulgent temperament. Otherwise, it doesn't matter when your head falls to the ground. What's more important is that your family will be implicated. Luo Qingxun's mouth raised a cold smile. She just happened to bump into Lin Fangfang. Lin Fangfang's face instantly widened. She pointed at Luo Qingxun and said, "Why are you here? Father was right. You are really ambitious." "Shut up," the old woman angrily shouted and angrily stared at Lin Fangfang. "Are you treating this old woman's words as if they were nothing? If you say another word, get lost immediately." Nanny Qi was a nanny who was especially valued by the king. Naturally, she knew Rong Jing's thoughts very well. What princess of Qi kingdom? What concubine? He had no intention of adding to his harem. No matter how beautiful a woman was, she meant nothing to him. Therefore, even if she chased all of them out of the palace, Rong Jing would not say anything. As for why Rong Jing didn't like women, as a servant, he didn't dare to ask. Luo Qingxun glanced at Lin Fangfang with disdain. Her father knew her well. With such a temperament, she wouldn't go far in the palace. Our king has a kitten. Recently, her temper has been very bad. She doesn't eat or drink. The imperial doctors in the palace are helpless. They can only post the imperial notice to ask for help. I didn't expect this girl to have the courage to tear down the imperial notice at such a young age. The soldier's voice was a little soft. It seemed that he didn't dare to speak too loudly in front of Luo Qingxun. In fact, there was a reason for this. As Rong Jing's imperial bodyguard, his status in the palace was incomparable to others. He rarely respected people, but the girl in front of him was one of the few. Why? Because this imperial notice was posted by Rong Jing himself. He also told him that if a girl in white with some bloodstains tore down the imperial notice, he should bring her to the palace. At that time, he thought it would take a long time, but Rong Jing told him, "You can post the imperial notice. Someone will definitely tear it down immediately." Chapter 3864. Rong Jing had a cat. This cat was very intelligent and rarely fell ill. But for some reason, it suddenly fell ill and its condition was very dangerous. The imperial physicians were helpless. Gu Heng hurriedly put up a notice, but when he thought about it, he felt that the king's expression did not seem to be anxious at all. Luo Qingxun was led by Gu Heng into a quiet room. She remembered the way she came. Based on her understanding of ancient palaces, she should be near the imperial garden. "I'll bring the cat over for Miss to see." Gu Heng bowed to her. Luo Qingxun hurriedly waved her hand and said, "No need, no need. Since the cat is so serious, I'll go over." "Miss, it's fine. This is the king's order." Gu Heng said again, "Miss, you only need to wait here." "All right." Gu Heng went out after saying that. Luo Qingxun waited for a long time, but did not see the cat come out. Instead, she heard some noise outside. She went out and saw a woman dressed in luxurious clothes. She had thick eyebrows and big eyes. She looked quite beautiful. She pointed at a palace maid and said, "Do you know who I am? The pastry in your hand dirted my clothes. Do you want to die?" At this time, the palace maid was kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. She cried and begged for mercy. "Miss Dai, it's this servant's fault. This servant will clean it for you." "Ha!" Dai snorted and glanced at the servant girl standing behind her. The maidservant quickly pulled out a dagger from her sleeve. A cold light flashed in her eyes as she said, "Our Miss Dai is the daughter of the current prime minister. Dirtying her clothes is not something that can be settled with just kowtowing. This servant," Dai's right hand gently brushed the dirty part of her clothes. She raised her eyes proudly and said, "I'll give you two choices. Either leave your hand or leave your face." Hearing this, Luo Qingxun and the maid kneeling on the ground were both stunned. This woman called Dai looked like she was just a woman of marriageable age, but her words were so cruel. What kind of doting upbringing was this to make a girl of her age not take human life seriously? This servant knows her mistake. "Miss Dai, please spare my life." The palace maid continued to beg for mercy. It seemed that she was well aware of Dai Yi's identity. Indeed, he was not someone to be offended. Shut up. The maid behind Daya shouted. Our young miss didn't want your life. Don't slander us. I, I'm. Daya snorted proudly. Looks like you don't want to choose yourself. Then let me choose for you. As soon as her voice fell, her fair and delicate fingertips lifted the palace maid's face and said, This small face is not bad. I heard that you work in Jinga Palace. The current king doesn't have a harem yet. This kind of palace maid can easily bewitch the king. Chun Tao, this servant is here. Scratch her face. If she resists, it won't be as simple as losing her face. Daiya's voice was low. She had no intention of letting this palace maid go. Luo Qingqian knew that she shouldn't interfere in this situation, but there was no other way. Sometimes people were like this. Although she wasn't a hero, she couldn't just stand by and watch. Moreover, if she didn't show off, how would she attract Rong Jing's attention? In order to get to his side, she really put in a lot of effort. Chapter 3865. Just by looking at the way she held the sharp blade, she knew that Dai Yi's servant girl must have practiced martial arts. She wasn't slow, her left hand firmly gripping the palace maid's neck. With a glare, she raised the dagger in her right hand high up. Luo Qingqian bent down slightly and picked up a peach blossom from the ground. The exquisite ring on her right hand glowed with a golden light, and she accurately threw the peach blossom petal at the palace maid's wrist. With a clang, the dagger fell to the ground. Chun Tao almost cried out in alarm. Her left hand tightly gripped the wound on her right hand, but the blood continued to flow out. The wound wasn't shallow. After she was injured, she realized that what was attacking her was nothing but a flower petal. This was impossible. Her heart was in a state of panic. She could only look around and say, Who is it? She did have martial arts, and it wasn't low. Because of this, she was even more terrified. The other party's martial arts were definitely above hers, many times above hers. There was actually an assassin in the palace. Someone come, someone come. Daiya shouted loudly. Then she pointed at the palace maid in front of her and said, Good for you. A little palace made with the help of an assassin. I think you want to be exterminated. Interesting. Luo Qingqian's cold voice slowly sounded as she walked out from the room to the side. Daiya looked at her and froze for a moment. Then she frowned. She had been a rich young miss since she was young, so she knew how important appearance was in the palace. Although the woman in front of him was dressed in white and there were traces of dirt on her clothes, it was difficult to conceal her alluring beauty. Who are you? Casually using a concealed weapon in the palace is a capital offense. Daiya spoke first, her tone extremely arrogant. Luo Qingqian walked forward slightly and helped the palace maid up. She calmly said, You didn't commit a capital offense for openly using a blade, but I threw a flower petal. Is there something wrong with your brain? Do you know who you're talking to? Chun Tao's voice was still trembling. She knew that the person in front of her had extraordinary martial arts and didn't dare to be careless. Daiya didn't think as much as Chun Tao. After all, she had been pampered since she was young. How could she allow someone she had never seen before to step on her head like this? No, that won't do. Probably because she was angry. She pursed her lips and dodged the dagger in Chun Tao's hand. Then, she stabbed towards Luo Qingqian. In her eyes, this speed was like slow motion. In the next second, just as she was about to jump back and dodge, a familiar scene appeared. A young man stood in front of her and swung his dagger. The dagger slashed across the back of his hand. Luo Qingqian was very familiar with the other party's aura. Even if he was dressed in black and had his face covered by a black cloth, Luo Qingqian immediately knew who he was. Yao Yao. She called his name softly, her tone slightly anxious. What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you not to follow me? As soon as she finished asking, she realized that the other party couldn't speak and couldn't give her response. Luo Qingqian didn't care so much. She directly took his hand and ran in the direction of the south gate. Daiya came to her senses almost immediately and shouted, Catch the assassin! Hurry and catch the assassin! This time, her voice was very loud. The imperial bodyguards in the palace all chased after Luo Qingqian. Crap! She lightly bit her lip and said as she ran, When we reach the south gate, you leave first. No matter what happens, don't look back. I have a way to escape. Chapter 3866. Luo Qingshun was very anxious, but Yao Yao didn't seem to be in a hurry. She dragged Luo Qingshun's hand and ran even slower. You're faster. Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows. Just by listening, she could tell that the footsteps of the guards were very close. If she was caught, she could justify herself, but the young man behind her was different. On the way here, she heard Guheng talk about the Rong Emperor. He was indeed a cold and ruthless person. For a man to appear out of nowhere in the imperial palace who couldn't even speak, if he was really caught, it would be hard to explain himself even if he had reason. She didn't want to get involved in so much trouble. As long as Yao Yao left, she would find a way to justify herself. But why didn't this person have the slightest intention of leaving? When they finally reached the south gate, they found that they were surrounded by guards. With a boom, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The originally blue sky suddenly darkened. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and shielded Yao Yao behind her. It seemed that even the heavens felt that a storm was bound to come. Huff, huff. After a while, Daiya ran to the south gate with her clothes in a mess. She put her hands on her hips and pointed at Luo Qingshun. You still want to run? Now I caught you red-handed. Daiya was full of vigor, like a high and mighty king who had already won the chase. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and said, What does it have to do with you? Of course it has nothing to do with me. But you, a woman, brought a man into the palace. Do you think the king's guards will let you go? Daiya paced back and forth, then looked at Luo Qingshun with a look of sudden realization. I know. You must be an assassin. You entered the palace to kill the king. In this case, you know what to do. As her voice fell, she did not forget to use the corner of her eyes to glance at the imperial bodyguard standing on her right. The moment their eyes met, Luo Qingshun knew that the imperial guard must be from the Dai family. It seemed that Rong Jing's people weren't all on his side. Kill them without mercy. With a hiss, Chun Shang unsheathed the sword at his waist. His status seemed to be higher. The imperial guards standing around him also unsheathed their swords and surrounded Luo Qingshun and the youth. One of the guards standing on his left asked, Brother Shang, shouldn't we report this to the emperor? When strangers are found in the palace, they should be executed on the spot to prevent the assassin from hurting the palace. People. Chen Shang looked at Luo Qingshun. Do you want to commit suicide, or should I do it? Are you worthy? Luo Qingshun gave a cold laugh as she looked at Chen Shang with cold eyes. The people I want to kill will never live, and the people I want to protect will never die. There, Luo SS2, because there was an exception. But at least as long as it wasn't a special plane, she would never let the person she wanted to protect die. What a big tone. Chen Shang attacked her with his sword without another word. Luo Qingshun jumped out, and her right hand with the exquisite ring slammed down at the third joint of his wrist. In the next second, the sound of a sword falling to the ground could be heard. Luo Qingshun's speed was so fast that the imperial guards didn't see it clearly. She had already won with an absolute advantage. Everyone was in an uproar, including the rest of the imperial guards. At this time, the youth standing behind her, although his face was covered, there was a faint smile on his face. End of chapter. Chapter 3867. To be honest, your skills are not as good as the assassins in Death City. Luo Qingshun raised her eyebrows and turned to look at the youth behind her. Don't you think so? Bright stars flashed in the young man's eyes as he nodded lightly. Chun Shang naturally could not stand such humiliation. His face was filled with anger as he bent down to pick up the sword that had fallen to the ground. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He was considered to have some status among the palace guards, but now he was being humiliated in front of so many people. How could he tolerate it? Seeing this, Daiya immediately added fuel to the fire. Guard Chun, how can you tolerate such an unbridled assassin in the palace? If they disturb the king, it will be a great crime. Moreover, since they are assassins, it is only right to kill them without mercy. Men, end them for me. The guards looked at each other and nodded. Yes, logically speaking, even if the other party was an assassin, they should still capture them alive. It was not appropriate to directly execute them on the spot. But it was clear that Chun Shang had been forced to the point of no return. He probably had to kill them. Luo Qingchun coldly snorted, just as she was about to find a time to take out the Phoenix Dance sword from her portable space. The youth behind her blocked her way. She did not know why, but at this moment, she felt that the aura on his body had changed. His originally innocent and harmless eyes darkened. Another loud rumble came from the sky, and the surroundings were filled with a solemn, murderous aura. Protect, miss. Protect, miss. Chun Tao knew martial arts and could naturally feel the aura on the youth's body. That pair of cold eyes seemed to want to devour everyone. Yao Yao. Luo Qingchun softly called out his name. This dramatic scene seemed to appear again, but this time it was different from the previous two times. It was as if she was not protecting him, but the other way around. He was protecting her. Don't leave either of them alive. Kill them both. Gu Heng's voice was very low. He had no intention of leaving them alive. Dai Ye, who was standing at the side, did not forget to jeer. Assassins deserve to die. Dying like this is too easy for them. You guys, come and protect the young lady. If anything happens to the young lady, the king won't let you off. Chun Tao continued. You have to know that although our young miss is also entering the palace as a harem, everyone is well aware that the king's feelings for the young miss cannot be compared to those orioles and swallows outside learning the palace rules. Luo Qingchun was slightly surprised. So this Dai Ye was also entering the palace for the selection. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. However, before she could think about it, the young man in front of her had already launched an attack in Gu Heng's direction. At this moment, everyone, including Luo Qingchun, was stunned. His speed was simply too fast. In less than 3 seconds, he had completely subdued Gu Heng. The sword in Gu Heng's hand had reached Gu Heng's neck in an extremely short amount of time. The long sword cut open a wound on his neck, and blood seeped out slightly. Don't mess around. Gu Heng clearly did not expect the other party's martial arts to be so high. He had been completely subdued in such a short amount of time. Not many people in Rome could reach this level of martial arts. Who could it be? Who could have this kind of skill? In fact, not to mention Gu Heng, even Luo Qingchun widened her eyes in shock. The young man in front of her did not seem to be the Yao Yao she had met in the Dead City. If he had this kind of martial arts, he definitely would not have been hit by the assassin's concealed weapon. And in the next second, something that shocked Luo Qingchun even more happened. End of chapter. Chapter 3868. The youth's frosty voice rang out as his gaze landed on Dai Ye. I'll give you 2 choices. Either you disfigure yourself, or I kill him. Hiss! Luo Qingchun sucked in a breath of cold air as she looked at the youth in front of her in shock. His back was elongated like a shadow, and was especially dazzling under the flashes of lightning. What was going on? Didn't they say they wanted him mute? How could he speak? Not only could he speak, but his voice was also so pleasant to the ears. His voice had reached a whole new level, all right? You? Don't tell me there's something wrong with your head. Dai Ye took a step back, not daring to look at Gu Heng. Gu Heng was indeed a member of the Dai family. He was also an imperial bodyguard promoted by his father. However, Dai Ye was naturally unwilling to exchange her looks for his life. Miss Dai Ye. Gu Heng saw Dai Ye take a step back, and his heart turned cold. He had liked Dai Ye since he was young, so he didn't hesitate to sacrifice his life for the Dai family. In his eyes, even if Dai Ye was disfigured, he would still like her. However, her actions had hurt his heart. It seems like you've made your choice. The youth's voice was still cold, but Gu Heng felt a sense of familiarity. I'm warning you. I'm an official of the imperial court. Gu Heng's voice trembled slightly. The smell of fresh blood made him feel his heart beating wildly and uncontrollably. If the other party was really an assassin, so what if he had to sacrifice his life? But if he wasn't, so what? The youth raised his eyebrows as a trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. The people I want to kill will always die, and the people I want to protect will always live. He smiled coldly as his gaze landed on Luo Qingchun. Am I right, Miss Luo? His voice was cold when he said the first part, but there was an inexplicable warmth when he said the last part. An inexplicable warmth. Daya had already taken a few steps back, but the youth's hidden weapon hit her in the leg. It was still a peach blossom petal, but the strength of his petal was stronger than Luo Qingqian's. How could such an expert in using hidden weapons be so clumsy and get hit by hidden weapons in the dead city? What kind of joke was this? Was this person teasing him? The problem was, who was this person? At first, when she was told the name, she already felt strange. Now that she had this experience, why did she feel that it was a bit like, he's the male lead? The system's voice suddenly sounded, making Luo Qingqian's head buzz. She felt as if she had been struck by lightning. What the hell? He's the male lead. Aren't you with me? Didn't the host say that the system might be broken? The system has been conducting self-maintenance ever since it entered this plane. The maintenance has just been completed. So what was the result of your maintenance? System, everything is normal. By the way, ding, affection has increased by 50. Mission completion rate is now 50%. This is the previous male lead's favorability towards the host. The system will now notify you. Goodbye, you. Luo Qingqian felt her face flush red. She suddenly remembered what she had said to him. Have you seen the king of the Rome kingdom? Yes, I have. Do you think he's good-looking? It was beautiful. She couldn't remember exactly what they had said. Rong Jing's back view had changed from a young man who needed her protection to an incomparably powerful man in an instant. Or rather, it should be called a ruler. This chapter ends. Chapter 38:69. Daya let out a cry of surprise as she collapsed to the ground. It was probably because her voice was too loud that more and more people from the palace rushed over. One of them was Prime Minister Dai, who was about to leave the palace. Daughter, what happened to you? Seeing the blood flowing from Daya's foot, Prime Minister Dai's face twisted. He immediately got up and looked at Rong Jing. You really don't want to live, you. The moment their eyes met, he felt that the surroundings were cold and gloomy, and the air was filled with a cold aura. You what? Is there a problem? The moment his cold voice sounded again, Prime Minister Dai directly knelt on the ground. Her makeup was ruined from crying, and her voice was sharp. Father, why are you kneeling? He just used a hidden weapon to hurt me. Don't speak, Prime Minister Dai roared. He rarely yelled at Dai, but he had no choice but to do so. Dai was used to being arrogant since she was young, so she had never been injured before. This time, not only was she injured, she was even bleeding, but her father still told her not to speak. How could she tolerate this? Father, I'm injured. Both of them are assassins. Father, have you gone senile? They must be trying to harm the king, especially that man. He even used a hidden weapon to hurt me. Father, look at my wound. This is the palace. Why are you kneeling to him? What are you afraid of? Daya said a lot of things, but Prime Minister Dai couldn't help but roar, You shut up. As soon as his voice fell, he kowtowed to Rong Jing. This humble subject has not taught his daughter well. Please forgive me, king. He had been an official for many years, so even if Rong Jing changed into a black robe he almost never wore and covered his face, he only needed to look at him and know that he was Rong Jing. The reason why I'm called an old official is because I have sharp eyes. Only then can I be qualified to survive in the imperial court for so many years. The imperial bodyguards were completely stunned. They looked at Prime Minister Dai and then looked at Rong Jing. It wasn't until Rong Jing took off his mask that everyone knelt down with a thud. Prime Minister Dai's daughter is quite interesting. His voice was filled with endless coldness as he said, Would this emperor harm myself? How is this possible? Daya felt her voice tremble uncontrollably. She took a deep breath and said, King, why are you here? What does it have to do with you where I am? Rong Jing's cold eyes narrowed, and the corner of his mouth curved into an extremely cold smile. It seems that this year's harem girls are not much. Throw them all out of the palace. King, calm your anger. King, calm your anger. Prime Minister Dai hurriedly kowtowed. The harem matter has been delayed for a long time. King, please don't change your mind because of my daughter. Reality has proven that a woman like Daya will only disturb the harem. What's the use of having her? My daughter is usually not like this. King, please calm your anger. Rong Jing coldly laughed, and his gaze fell on Gu Hong. The corner of his mouth curved into a cold smile. This emperor feels that Prime Minister Dai's daughter and this emperor's imperial bodyguard are a good match. This emperor will agree to this marriage today. Dai Yiye and Gu Hong were both stunned. The two of them wanted to say something, but didn't dare to. After a long time, Prime Minister Dai could only kowtow and say, "Thank you, King, for your grace. Asterisk, 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 this story will return to Xi." Lapis Lazuli always felt that it would be even more interesting after returning to Qi. End of chapter. Chapter 3870. With that, he turned around and looked at Luo Qingchen. She narrowed her eyes slightly. Her face was expressionless, and it was as if she had hidden her emotions. But he could still see some of it. She was probably angry. "All of you can leave." He gently waved his hand, and everyone felt relieved. They almost wanted to run away from the side of this cold and frosty king. In less than a few seconds, only Xi and Rong Jing were left at the south gate. Luo Qingchen didn't say anything. Rong Jing looked at her with a faint smile. After a long time, he said, "It's not good to be angry. Eat something first." "How can you?" Luo Qingchen looked away and pretended to be angry. "So the Rong country's ruler likes to lie to people. You gave me this identity, not me." Rong Jing's eyes were faint, and his lips curved into a faint smile. "I took advantage of the situation. It was purely a coincidence." "Oh, really?" Luo Qingchen raised her eyebrows slightly and said, "So the king's arrival in the dead city was also a coincidence?" "Aye, so the king's clumsy sacrifice was also a coincidence?" Luo Qingchen's eyes unconsciously flashed with a glimmer of light. The more she spoke, the less angry she felt. "Clumsy." Rong Jing's lips curved into a faint smile, like a spring breeze. There was a feeling of contrast in the red walls of the deep palace. He seemed to be different from the cold king in the eyes of others. But why did he come and get close to her? Ahem. Luo Qingchen cleared her throat and said, "If the king's hidden weapon wasn't so accurate, maybe your acting that day in the dead city wasn't too clumsy." She should have thought of it, but the system didn't give her any hints, so she denied this idea. It was all the system's fault. How could someone with such good looks be mediocre? "All right." Rong Jing narrowed his eyes slightly and revealed a faint smile. "Why don't we talk over dinner?" He walked up to her casually and held her hand even more casually. There were palace maids and eunuchs passing by. Although they didn't dare to look directly, they still widened their eyes when they saw it from the corner of their eyes. This was their first time seeing the king holding a woman's hand. All this time, Rong Jing did not have a single woman in his harem. Not only did he not appoint an empress, he did not even take in a concubine. As for the reason, no one knew. However, the court officials were anxious about the next ruler of Rome, but they didn't dare to make it too obvious. They could only submit memorials one after another, hoping that Rong Jing would take a concubine for the sake of the country. Coincidentally, the Qi kingdom had sent their princess over. Rong Jing could no longer suppress this matter, so he allowed them to do as they wished. Anyway, even if someone entered the harem, did it have anything to do with him? That was the suggestion of the court officials. If the court officials wanted it, they could take it for themselves. In Rong Jing's eyes, any woman in this world had nothing to do with him. But he inexplicably felt that the reason why he suddenly compromised on this matter was because the Qi kingdom wanted to send some princess over. It was better not to send this kind of princess. After all, he didn't want to be on good terms with the Qi kingdom. If he sent her over, he wouldn't be able to attack them in the future. It would be troublesome. Therefore, his initial purpose of going to the dead city wasn't to save Luo Qingchen. It was to kill her. However, Luo Qingchen really didn't know about this matter. Chapter 3871. You mean, your original intention was to kill me? Luo Qingchen held the osmanthus cake in her hand and suddenly lost her appetite. Sure enough, the rumors about Rong Jing in the Rong country were very accurate. He was a person as cold as ice, and his methods were very unusual. He replied faintly, the dark light in his eyes focused on her. Then why did you change your mind later? Luo Qingqian blinked her clear eyes. She thought that since she had already said this much, the other party should have a sweet response. For example, because I regretted it the moment I saw you. Or, when I looked at you, I only wanted to protect you. Or, when I saw so many assassins trying to kill you, I couldn't hold my sword. Luo Qingqian had already gone through many words of love in her mind, and she planned to listen carefully to what Rong Jing would say to her. Little did she know that when she opened her mouth, the faint smile on her face instantly froze. Ah! His eyebrows lightly raised as he looked into her eyes. A faint light flashed in his eyes, because this one knows his own limits. What? Luo Qingqian was slightly stunned, and her face was filled with doubt. This one knows that this one can't beat you. He would never forget that night in the City of Death. The girl was dressed in white and held a glowing red sword in her hand. Under the moonlight, her face was as cold as ice. Facing countless assassins, there was not the slightest trace of fear in her eyes. The sword in her hand fell and blood splattered everywhere, but her expression did not change at all. There was no pity, no mockery, and not even a hint of emotion. It was probably at that moment that her expression moved him and he accidentally brushed the leaves on the side. Her ears moved slightly, and he knew that she knew where he was. If he did not appear at this time, it would be too unreasonable. But if he appeared, the other party must remember him. So Rong Jing thought of this method. It seemed very clumsy, but luckily she thought that he could not speak, so it was not that easy to be exposed. I don't think so. Luo Qingqian put the osmanthus cake in her mouth and said, "The king's martial arts should be above mine." Below, Rong Jing looked at her and said, "You can win without a fight." She didn't know if it was because the osmanthus cake was too sweet or because the breeze blowing through the window was too warm. Luo Qingqian felt a strange sweetness in her heart. It was a sweetness that made her lips unconsciously raise. That night, she moved into the palace. Rong Jing did not announce that she was the princess of Qi Kingdom, because he knew that after they left, someone went to the dead city the next day to find her. After a day's investigation, he had a rough idea who was looking for her. The king of the kingdom, the one she should be called brother. Asked Rong, have name. Why do they want to kill them? Logically speaking, since she was the princess of the Qi Kingdom and the Rong Kingdom, the Qi Kingdom should not have sent people to kill her. Even if they wanted to kill, they should have waited until they entered Tide City. That way, they could at least accuse Ronggoen of something. But if they made a move in the dead city, it meant that they wanted her life. Isn't it obvious? Luo Qingqian's eyes narrowed, and her lips curled into a cold smile. The Empress of the Kingdom of Qi wants to kill me. Why? Luo Qingqian blinked and smiled. It's probably because she's afraid that I'll steal her man. You're talking about King Qi? Yes. She took a sip of tea and said, I have no blood relation to King Qi. Chapter 3872. She had always thought that one day she would return to Qi Kingdom and personally avenge the original owner as a king. The grievances she had suffered all those years ago, the injury she had suffered all those years ago, and the wrong person she had married all those years ago. I see. Rong Jing looked at her meaningfully. After a long time, he said, Rest early. You must be tired these days. Is there nothing the king wants to know? Luo Qingqian blinked. She was a little puzzled by Rong Jing's lack of questions. Was he such an indifferent person? I'm afraid that if I keep asking, I won't let you go back tonight. Rong Jing narrowed his eyes and said, Qi Kingdom gave me such a big gift, so I should let it rest. But now, it seems that there is no need for it to rest. There is a hint of coldness and decisiveness in his voice. Luo Qingqian looked at his eyes and couldn't help but feel a little nervous. From Rong Jing's words, did he want to start a war with Qi Kingdom? In her memory, Rong Kingdom and Qi Kingdom were equally powerful. However, looking at Rong Jing's expression, he felt that if Rongguo wanted to destroy the Qi Kingdom, it would be a very simple matter. The next morning, Luo Qingqian got up early. After yesterday's incident, Daiya had been expelled from the palace to marry Qinshang. This meant that she had nothing to do with the palace in this life. But the young mistresses who had already entered the palace were still there, learning the palace rules with Mother Chi. Most of these young mistresses had been pampered since they were young. It was not easy to learn the rules in the palace. In addition, Mother Chi was one of Rong Jing's people. She had been by the king's side for a long time, so she naturally knew what he was thinking. Being with the king was like being with a tiger. Being a servant in the palace was a matter of hanging one's head around one's neck. Guessing the king's thoughts was something that every servant had to do. Luo Qingshun was probably bored. She wandered around the imperial garden with the kitten that Gu Hong brought. Yes, this cat was already alive and kicking today, and there were no major problems. Luo Qingshun knew what had happened, even if she didn't look into the details. Since Rong Jing was the mute teenager who had always been with her, then the cat's illness must have something to do with him. More accurately, some of the drugs were even given to the kitten by someone. However, she had no evidence. Meow. The kitten meowed at her and went into the imperial garden. As soon as it got in, it heard a familiar shout. Ah, Lin Fong Fong exclaimed. Where did this wild cat come from? It scratched me. Just as Lin Fong Fong was about to reach out to grab the kitten, Luo Qingshun picked up the kitten with lightning speed. Luo Qingshun, it's you again. What do you think this is? You even brought a dirty cat with you. Are you crazy? Lin Fong Fong's character was still as irritable as when she was at the inn. She looked like she had eaten some irritable beans. But it was normal. After all, she had been tortured by Nanny Chi for 2 days. She was more and more determined that she didn't come to the palace to choose a concubine, but to be a maid. At this moment, she happened to meet Luo Qingshun again. She was furious. Dirty cat? Don't dig out its eyes. Luo Qingshun gently stroked the kitten's fur. It meowed at Lin Fong Fong with hostility. Everyone stopped and looked at Lin Fong Fong and Luo Qingshun. Probably because Lin Fong Fong's family was a little rich and she was the daughter of a government official. Everyone flattered her more or less. Now that they saw her quarreling with someone, they naturally stood on her side. Chapter 3873. Is she a maid from that palace? She looks like one. She's dressed so plainly. She looks like a maid. Sister Fong Fong, don't be angry. When you officially enter the harem, you can transfer this maid to be your servant. Let's see how arrogant she can be. The young masters were all speaking one after another, and what they said was really not pleasant to hear. Probably because Nanny Chi was not here, they seemed to be more arrogant. It seemed that they were venting their anger on Luo Qingshun at the same time. But who was Luo Qingshun? How could she be a punching bag for others? How can you be qualified to enter the harem? Is the harem of the Rong state so ugly? Luo Qingshun sneered and looked Lin Fong Fong up and down. A playful smile flashed through her eyes. Do you know why your father begged me to enter the harem with you? Shut up, because Lin Fong Fong wanted to suppress Luo Qingshun with her voice, but she didn't expect that Luo Qingshun interrupted her quickly. You're ugly. PFFF. The younger sister of the top scholar, standing not far away, couldn't help but laugh. She faintly opened her mouth and said, I actually feel that this young lady is right. Some people don't know how to look at themselves in the basin of water before entering the palace. Do you really think you can enter the harem by putting on some rouge and powder on your face? Hearing this, Lin Fong Fong's whole face turned red. She felt that she was going to explode. But Lin Fong Fong was also a young mistress like her. Nanny Chi had warned her again and again not to cause trouble. Since she couldn't vent her anger on her, she could only vent her anger on Luo Qingshun. She naturally knew that she was not a maid, but she had seen her in the inn. She was dressed so shabbily that she definitely wasn't a young mistress. Instead, she was more like a relative of a maid. The next second, she raised her hand without saying a word and wanted to slap Luo Qingshun. But with her speed, how could she hit Luo Qingshun? When Luo Qingshun was about to take her wrist and slap her back, Luo Qingshun suddenly stopped her. A warm palm pulled her back. The sudden pull made her lose her balance, and she instantly fell into a warm embrace. The other party snorted softly with a touch of warmth, as if her falling into his arms was something that he had long planned. No one could understand the joy in his heart. At the same time, he decisively grabbed Lin Fongfong's hand and gave a hard push. Lin Fongfong seemed to be in a daze as she screamed, "Who pushed me? I didn't grow." In the next second, when Rong Jing's cold face appeared in front of her, her whole face turned pale, and she almost couldn't stand still. "Why aren't you saluting the king when you see him?" The eunuch beside Rong Jing roared. Everyone was stunned and immediately knelt down in a trembling voice, "Greetings to the king." Rong Jing ignored them and gently tucked the hair in front of her forehead behind her ear. He gently looked into her eyes and said, "Who said you were a maid?" The woman who said she was a maid turned pale, and her body couldn't stop trembling. "You're so smart, you must know." This one knows. His gaze was on her from beginning to end. The corner of his mouth rose slightly. "Take her down and give her 50 strokes. She'll never be allowed to enter the palace." "Yes," the eunuch said. In the next second, Rong Jing continued, "Who said you were dressed plainly?" Immediately, the woman kneeling in the corner cried out, "King, spare me! King, spare me! Take her down and give her 100 strokes." Rong Jing narrowed his eyes slightly. "Send all the brocades in Tianxian City to the palace."